Hello and welcome to Klawde, Evil Alien Warlord Cat by Johnny Marciano and Emily Chenoweth. I'm going to try to read this whole book in one straight run. If it accidentally becomes two parts, it's because of something probably out of my control, such as one of my children waking up or my computer dying, but it's pretty charged right now. I usually never read this part of the book, like who it's written for, or the prologue, but I found some of this kind of interesting. For Raja and Rajiv, who made high school less worse than it was. For Eliza and Josephine, that's my first name, who really, really love cats. Not only is that my name, my first name, but I also really, really love cats. And for Allie, Nick, and Maureen, who make my life a very happy one. Prologue. Date: the 789th day of the year, 58-493-D, planet, Litterbox. Please don't spell litterbox like this. Spelled L-I-T-T-E-R, box, as in B-O-X-S. Place, the supremest court of all galactic order. My enemies came for me at nap time. Before I could even unsheath my claws, they pounced atop me. They tied me up and chained my paws, and then they dragged me from my holding cell into the supremest court of all galactic order. It was a most unpleasant way to wake up, though I could not fight them. I yelled so ferociously that the courtroom crowd, traitors, all of them, hissed and scattered. Only one cat had not betrayed me, my loyal minion, Floofy Fur. "You'll always be my lord, High Emperor," he called, "and I will always be your—" Ow! Someone had smacked him on the back of the head. It was the greatest traitor of them all, my former second-in-command, General Fang. "Not such a mighty and powerful warlord now, are you?" he said, purring. My tail slashed in anger. "I shall have my revenge on you, Fang." "We shall see about that," Fang said, and bared his teeth at me as the 13th noble elders filed into the room. The chief elder licked his right paw and called the court to order. "My fellow cats," he began, "thousands of years ago, when our planet was overrun by criminal felines, our wise ancestors decided that these evildoers must be exiled. Far across the universe, they discovered a vast wasteland of a planet inhabited by a race of carnivorous ogres. For generations we sent our convicts there. None ever returned. But in the year 49,763 B, the punishment was deemed too cruel, and it was decreed that no feline, no matter how evil, no matter how tyrannical, would ever be sent to this horrible place. And so it has been, until you came along. You, former Lord High Emperor, have been so relentless in clawing your way to power, so ruthless in your evil schemes of domination, and so dedicated to general crimes against felinity, that we are forced to resurrect this ancient punishment." The crowd gasped. "Have you anything to say, Whiskas?" asked the chief elder. It's a funny way. It almost sounds like whiskers. Whiskas. "A lesser cat might have begged for mercy, but all I showed them was my scorn. Every one of you freckless felines will rue the day you overthrew me, the greatest warlord the universe has ever known. For the likes of a pathetic schemer like General Fang, you may shoot me into space like yesterday's trash, but I swear to you that one day soon I will be back." General Fang chuckled. "You will be an ogre's breakfast." With a wave of Fang's paw, the guards unbound me and forced me into the waiting teleporter. Brilliant green light flashed as the wormhole opened. In an instant, I was transported 2,904 million light years across space. to the most horrible, distant, and desolate planet in the universe, Earth. Chapter 1. Saturday. It was a rainy Saturday night, and I was lying on the floor of my new living room, staring at the ceiling and wishing I were anywhere but here. Dad was watching baseball, Mom was working on her laptop, and I was experiencing a life-threatening level of boredom. I still couldn't believe what had happened. Up until last week, I'd been living a really great life in Brooklyn, New York. But then my parents decided to move 2,904 miles across the country to here, Elba, Oregon. If you ask me, and no one did, this was a terrible idea. In New York, I could visit 3 friends without ever leaving my apartment building. And when I did leave, I could walk to the library, a comic book store, a candy shop, and 2 pizzerias, all without having to cross the street. Think about this and where he's describing New York City. Have you ever been to New York City? If you haven't, have you ever been to a large city, perhaps Chicago? He doesn't even have to walk very far to be in proximity to all these things. If I left my house in Elba, I could walk to 12 trees, an ant mound, a hornet's nest, and a bunch of rose bushes. Nature was everywhere. It was spooky. According to my mom, we'd moved to Oregon because she had gotten a better job and I got to have a big bedroom and a backyard. But that stuff didn't matter to me. Where were the comic book stores and pizza places? There wasn't a single shop on my street, not even a laundromat with good vending machines. Here in Oregon, I had nothing to do and 0 friends, which was maybe why I hadn't unpacked yet. But then again, neither had my parents. What their excuse was, I had no idea. You could take a look at this graphic. Dad's wearing a shirt, Floss is the boss. Mom is working on her computer, which could maybe tell us she's a workaholic or has a very important job. And this looks like it could be one of our main characters. And all these moving boxes unpacked. Do you want to come and sit with me and read? Come on over.
I didn't even have these candies.
You can't have one because you brushed your teeth already. Come here. Come here. I'm going to show the camera on you. You got to say hi, 5th graders and other Bell's Books readers. Say hi. I'm supposed to be sleeping. Say, I'm proud of you for reading.
I'm proud of you for reading.
Good job, Marmar. That is my sleep avoider 4-year-old, Damari. Fix that. Okay, so we are reading this book, Damari. Let's keep reading it together. I don't know why my camera's a little crooked. That's better. Okay. I just picked up the latest American Man comic to read for the millionth time when it happened. A bright green flashing light up in the sky outside of the window. It only lasted a second, but then everything went dark and rainy again. Did you see that? I asked. Yes, my dad hollered. Torres stole third base. Third base. No, that crazy green light. My mom looked up from her laptop. What, dear? The green light outside, I said. Oh, Raj, that was just lightning, my mom said. Okay, so another weird thing about Oregon. Green lightning. I went back to reading my comic, and then the doorbell rang. Ding dong! The doorbell? Who could that be? Keep that in mind when we read this next chapter. Here I was, alone, on Earth. It was even more horrifying than the ancient text had described. It was nighttime. Blazing lights shone down from the top of huge branchless trees. What do you think this character is describing? Blazing lights shone down from the top of huge branchless trees. Could he be talking about the light poles that light up our street? As I scanned the area for carnivorous ogres and other dangers, something wet hit me on the nose. There was a liquid, bless you, Mari, falling from the sky. Was this some sort of chemical weapon? Was I under attack? I rushed under a leafy bush, but it offered little protection. The liquid slid down my lustrous fur, chilling me to the bone. I didn't know what it could possibly be. Ooh, look at that visual. Based on what we've read so far, it seems like we've switched characters, and we are now this cat. And it's raining outside. This street light seems to be what he's describing as a branchless, leafless tree. But I hated it. I had to find shelter now. Damari, come over here, please. Hey, Damari. It's bedtime, so you can either read with me or you have to go back upstairs. You can make that decision, okay, sweet boy? Thankfully, many of the trees on this planet did have branches. I climbed the nearest one, from which I immediately found evidence of humans. All around stood their massive fortresses, packed in so close they almost touched one another. High wooden walls surrounded their small patches of territory. In front of the fortresses sat huge tank-like vehicles. This must be a very warlike planet indeed. This alien cat seems to be describing this friendly-looking neighborhood, but this is the perspective from an outsider who's never been to planet Earth. He's thinking these large vehicles, keep in mind he's a cat, so he's a lot smaller than a human, but these large vehicles are used for war, and they're tank-like vehicles, when in reality they're just cars. Damari, hey, sweet boy, I am reading a book. You can't do that right now. So you can either sit here and listen, or you have to go back up to bed. No, because you're making noises. This is not for you right now. Maybe tomorrow, okay? But right now, we are sitting quietly and listening.
Tomorrow, can I have a waterfall?
But then listen or go to sleep. Those are your options. But tomorrow morning, you're going to be a little tired.
Or downstairs.
No, hey, don't touch that, please. Okay.
I love that thing.
You can't do that. I'm reading. Okay, ready? I needed to gain entry into one of these fortified structures. I didn't know what the ogres within would do to me, but this falling liquid was intolerable. I raced to the nearest fortress. Next to its front portal was a glowing button. A push button to open the entrance. Perhaps this would allow me to sneak in without being noticed. I leaped up and pressed it. Ding dong! Hiss! Why would it make that awful noise? Okay, you need to go upstairs and go to bed. No, I'm in the middle of reading. This is very important. You need to go upstairs. Now. Okay, I'm going to call you. No. What you need to tell me, because then you need to go to bed.
If you don't want to shoot upstairs or down here, you should go down there.
No, I'm calling your dad now because you're not listening. And you need to go upstairs. It's bedtime.
Okay.
Go. Hey, I'm at chapter 3. Can you please come and get Damari? Because he's not listening to me, and he's now disrupting my reading time for Battle of the Books. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Mari, I'm reading. This is for my students. This is very important. I need you to go upstairs. Daddy's coming down to get you because you're not listening to my words. Chapter 3. Still Saturday. Did anyone else hear that? I asked. Hear what? My mom said. When she was working, the world could end and she wouldn't notice. The doorbell. It must have been the TV, dear, Mom said, still not looking up from her laptop. We don't have friends here yet. No, because I have to read. You're interrupting my reading. You have to go upstairs and go to bed. Stop. Please. Okay? Let me start this chapter over. Chapter 3. Still Saturday. Did anyone else hear that? I asked. Hear what? My mom said. When she was working, the world could end and she wouldn't notice. The doorbell. It must have been the TV, dear, Mom said, still not looking up from her laptop. We don't have friends here yet. That was for sure. Ding dong! There, it went again. I got up and peeked through the front door window, but I couldn't see anyone. Then I heard a horrible noise. It sounded like a possum being electrocuted. Was it some kind of nature? Right at our front door? Back home, the closest I ever got to nature was when I watched pigeons fighting over pizza crusts on the sidewalk. Living here was terrifying. Finally, the awful squealing stopped. Nervously, I opened the door and peered into the darkness. There was a cat sitting at our welcome mat. The terrible sound had been meowing. Was that you? I said. What are you doing here, kitty? And then I felt really stupid because cats can't talk. The cat was skinny, wet from rain, and didn't have a collar. Maybe he was a stray. Maybe I could keep him. I had always wanted a pet, especially a cat, and now one had appeared on my doorstep. I was about to try to pet him when he raced between my legs into the house. Ah! My mom shrieked, like she had seen a rat. I ran into the living room. Mom was clutching her chest and staring at the cat, who was frozen in a low crouch. "Where did that thing come from?" she said. "And why is it in our house?" "He was on the porch," I said. The doorbell rang, and there he was. My dad smiled. "Maybe it's a welcome to the neighborhood gift." My mother did not smile. A plate of cookies is a welcome to the neighborhood gift. A cat is a reason to call animal control. "Can we keep him?" I asked. Mom looked at me like I was insane. "Here, kitty, kitty, kitty," Dad said, reaching out a hand to pet him. The cat swatted at him with his paw. "It's probably feral," Mom said. "No, he's not," I said, even though I had no idea what feral meant. "He's just scared. Can I keep him? Please?" My parents looked at each other, then at me. Then we all turned to the cat. He was staring right back at us. He meowed. At least I think that's what that sound was. Chapter 4. Though I feared the button's infernal noise would summon the humans, I jumped up and struck it a second time. Ding dong! Still the portal remained shut. I attempted to get a better look at the glowing button. Maybe it was operated by paw print recognition technology. Were these humans less primitive than was believed? Perhaps I could ask them for help. It was a dangerous idea. According to the ancient histories, humans were ugly, brutal, and stupid. But right now, they were my only hope. "Humans, hear me!" I cried. "I am a poor and hungry traveler from a distant planet." Still nothing. I was about to seek shelter in a different fortress when the portal slowly opened. Out peered a creature more hideous than my worst nightmare. The monster was as big as 20 cats, and it stood on 2 legs. But the most shocking, dreadful thing was that this beast had no fur. I froze. Which was worse, this monster or the falling liquid? I raced between the human's legs. Inside was dry, but there were 2 more humans, and these were even bigger and more hideous. I sank into defensive crouch. The largest ogre reached toward me, and I batted his monstrous, hairless paw aside. But there was no way I could overwhelm them all. They were too gigantic. My only defense, I realized, was disguise. "Please do me no harm," I said as sweetly as possible. "I am just a lost and innocent astronaut." I don't think the humans understood my sophisticated language. Their own speech was as ugly as their long, whiskerless faces. What came out of their mouths was an incomprehensible mix of slurring and grunting. I could understand that they were arguing over me. However, the small ogre sought to offer me protection, but the big ones were not convinced. Little could these humongous hairless humans know that standing before them was the greatest feline warlord the universe had ever known. If you haven't noticed yet, we are switching from the point of view every other chapter, from the point of view of the cat and the point of view of the boy. Well, that's the dog. Cat and this boy. Chapter 5. Saturday continued. "Is that thing meowing?" Mom asked. Now we're back in the perspective of the young boy. "It sounds like a wolverine being burned alive." "I think this little fellow must be part Siamese," Dad said. "I don't care what kind of breed the cat is," I said. "I want him." I promised my parents that I'd pay for his cat food out of my allowance, that I'd do his litter box, that I'd even clean my room, and make my bed every day. My dad shrugged and went back to watching baseball, knowing the decision wasn't up to him. Meanwhile, my mom eyed the cat suspiciously as he leaped up to the windowsill. He gazed down at us like a furry gargoyle. "Are we sure it even is a cat?" Mom said. "It's awfully strange looking." "Don't insult him," I said. "Its brain is the size of a walnut," Mom said. "It doesn't know if I'm insulting it or praising its beauty." "Can I keep him, please?" Mom sighed. "All right," she said. I couldn't believe it. It was a miracle. I was going to get what I wanted. That never happened. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," I said. "You've made the right decision, I swear." She nodded, and then she held out a brochure. "On one condition," she said. I should have known there'd be a condition. "You keep the cat, you go to nature camp," she said. "It starts Monday." Nature and camp? 2 words that struck terror into my heart. Let's take a look at this brochure. "You'll go wild for nature at Camp Eclipse. Discover the skills of survival on the slopes of an extinct volcano. Together with your forest pack, you will learn how to build a shelter out of branches and leaves, identify the tracks of wild animals, understand the language of birds, forage the wilderness for food, climb trees, test the limits of your mental and physical endurance, and best of all, play the life-changing game of Survival Night. Is all this going to happen outside? I asked. I should certainly think so, Mom said. I really didn't want to go, but I also really wanted the cat. I gulped and nodded. Fine, I said. I'll do it. The cat blinked and swished his tail. He was so adorable and innocent. I'd do anything to keep him. Chapter 6. Before you read this with me, have you ever felt, I wouldn't say desperate, but maybe eager as this character is feeling towards this cat? I can relate to this and say that throughout my childhood, my sister and I would find animals, particularly in Wisconsin. Sometimes we would catch frogs or turtles, but there was one instance where we found a stray cat who had some kittens, and oh, you bet we begged my family to let us keep these cats, but unfortunately, we weren't as lucky as the main character, and we had to give them to the local vet. But have you ever been in a situation where you were begging your family or your parents for something because you wanted it so bad? And also, who had the say in it? Was it your mom, your dad, or was it a shared mom and dad decision? Go ahead and make some connections. Chapter 6. The smallest ogre now appeared to be begging the long-furred ogre for some kind of mercy. I sensed the long-furred one was the warlord of the fortress, while the small one was some kind of underling. The largest, baldest ogre was clearly lowly as well. I observed the humans as they communicated in their barbaric tongue. They did have some fur, but it sprouted from their bodies in strange places, such as the tops of their heads and in lines above their eyes. Bizarre. Surprisingly, they were so disgusted by their own appearance that they had draped themselves in a kind of fur substitute, held together with primitive buttons and zippers. What do you think he's talking about here? Since humans don't have lots of fur on their bodies, he's saying that they're draping themselves in a kind of fur substitute, held together with primitive buttons and zippers. I think he's talking about clothes. I almost felt sorry for them. All of a sudden, the small ogre scooped me up in its arms and hurried down a passageway to its lair. "Put me down," I commanded, but it did not obey. It held me so tightly I couldn't get away. I watched in horror as its huge mouth came right at my head. It was going to eat me. With all my strength, I tried to push the monster away, but I could not overpower it. The human put its lips to my fur and made a loud smacking sound, and then it let go of me. What did this mean? Before I could even begin to ponder it, something even stranger happened. The ogre stretched out on a soft platform, covered itself with a large piece of cloth, and died. I pawed its chest cautiously, fearing this was some kind of trick, but there was no getting it back to life. In the next room, I found the other two humans had perished similarly. Had their enemies poisoned them? I could hardly believe my luck. Now I had a large, well-equipped fortress all to myself. Once I located the humans' weapons and teleporter, I could make my way back to the litter box and reclaim what was rightfully mine. First, however, I had to do something about this pitiful state of my fur. The foul falling liquid had made it damp and clumpy. But what could I do? Without a follicular excavator, I would have to lick myself like some sort of barbarian tree cat. It took all night. I was finally finishing when Earth's puny, pale sun rose into the sky, and the strangest, most disturbing thing yet occurred. The humans began to arise. They lumbered about with half-opened eyes. Before I turn the page, so these characters really didn't die. They got onto a soft platform, probably his bed, covered itself with a large piece of cloth, probably his comforter or a blanket, and instead of dying, probably just went to sleep. But as a cat alien visiting planet Earth, he assumed all of these things were happening. Zombies! They were giant ogre zombies! I went to the front portal, but I couldn't open it. I was trapped. As I madly searched for an escape route, the humans one by one went into a small room where they removed their primitive coverings and stepped into a tall glass cage. Then they turned a knob, which caused that horrible clear liquid to come streaming down over their hideous bodies. Moments later, they came out, wearing new coverings and smiling. What kind of world was this? Pausing right here. What do you think these humans are doing right now? Or, I mean, ogres. What are these ogres doing right now? Hopefully you guessed it. They're taking a shower. Chapter 7. Sunday morning. I woke up happier than I had been in weeks. I had my own cat. I had been asking for one ever since I was 6, and it had finally happened. After breakfast, my mom said we needed to start unpacking, but my dad insisted we go out for cat supplies. But almost everything we own is still in boxes, Mom said. Well, I unpacked my signed Derek Jeter baseball, Dad said, pointing to where it sat on the mantel, and that's all I need to feel at home. Mom sighed. Fine, she said. You two go to Pet Bin. They do free vaccinations on weekends. Make sure that thing gets a rabies shot. You bet, Dad said brightly. Getting my new cat into the carrier that my dad had borrowed was no picnic. It took both of us, and my dad got so scratched up that it looked like he might need medical attention. I tried to think of names for the cat while we drove, but it was hard to concentrate because Dad was blasting his 80s hair metal music. We're not gonna take it. No, we're not gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. Pause right there. Miss Neeley's got a pretty good voice, don't I? I really, really wished he wouldn't sing along. At Pet Bin, Dad filled the cart with supplies. My cat, Bandit, or Hermes? No, Loki seemed a little more relaxed now. He was purring. Or was he growling? It was hard to tell. The last thing we picked up was his collar with a name tag. What would you like me to put on it? The cashier asked when we went to get it engraved. I was still thinking Loki, or maybe Thor, when Dad blurted out something that sounded like Klawde. Klawde? The cashier said. No, Dad said. Klawde. Klawde, like Claude, but spelled in a more exciting way. He playfully pawed at the air. Why use a C when you could use a K? K is the alphabet's party letter. Dad looked so pleased with himself that I didn't have the heart to protest. I told myself that I had my cat, and that was all that really mattered. While the cashier was engraving the tag, we took Claude over to where they were offering the free vaccinations. A young-looking vet opened the carrier door and bent down to see inside. Claude's purr growl stopped. Oh, look at him. He's so... The vet paused. Interesting looking. Claude was crouched down low and baring his fangs. Maybe we shouldn't give him a shot right now, I said. Oh, no, it's fine, the vet said. I work with animals every day, and I know how to handle them. He reached into the cage and pulled Claude out by the scruff of his neck. See, he said, easy peasy. Now we just take this needle and, with a blood-curdling yowl, Claude flew at the vet's face and latched on. The vet started screaming and flailing his arms around. I was yelling, stop, stop, and my dad was desperately trying to pull Claude off. It wasn't so easy peasy after all. So if you note here, he's holding Claude by the very back of his neck. That's called the scruff of the neck. And that's how mom cats carry their kittens. They bite the back of their kitten's neck, the scruff of the neck, because it's made of a little bit of extra thick skin so that it doesn't hurt them as much when they bite down to carry them from place to place. And that's just when they're really little. But even as adults, it's less painful to pick up a cat by the back of their neck or the scruff of their neck. Now, I'm curious to see Claude's point of view when it's his turn for the chapter. I wonder what he's thinking inside the bin when he sees a random man in a white doctor coat coming at him with a needle. Sure, this is why he's acting crazy, right? Chapter 8. Just when I thought I was safe, the humans brought out the cage. I struggled valiantly, but together the two ogres overpowered me. After locking me inside, the small ogre carried me into their armored vehicle, and we proceeded to leave the fortress. Had my enemies somehow made contact with them? Is my exile not enough for you, General Fang? Do you now intend to kill me? At the end of a seemingly endless journey, they removed my cage from the vehicle. The landscape was the most awful and desolate I had ever seen. The building they took me into was some kind of prison, and inside were more cages, filled with other cats. The legends were true. Litterboxed criminal felines had survived their exile, and their descendants were right here. I tried calling to them, "Fellow cats, comrades, what sort of evil place is this?" But the only word I heard back from them was, "Meow." Meow? Did earth cats have their own language? What could this word mean? Beware? Turn back? Before I could make sense of it, the ogres began to wheel me around the room in a small vehicle made of metal bars. A small vehicle made of metal bars with inside of a store makes me feel like he's inside of a shopping cart. They filled this vehicle with many boxes and bags. It was hard to see out of my cage, but there appeared to be pictures of cats on the boxes. I could not understand what was happening. The next thing I knew, my cage was being lifted up. The door opened and I shrank back. I could not let them leave me in this horrible place. But then a new human reached inside the cage and grabbed me by the neck. He was lightning fast. Suddenly, I was out in the open, exposed, and being held down by its hideous 5-fingered paw. Then it drew out a tiny spear and tried to stab me in the neck. I attacked. First, my claws ripped at his hands. Next, its face. Oh, how sweet the feeling. I left long red scratch marks all over his vile, furless cheeks. When I was but seconds away from murdering it, my humans pulled me off. This was followed by much incomprehensible yelling as the bleeding human chased my humans out of its territory. I knew he had a big reaction here. Chapter 9. Sunday afternoon. My dad didn't play any 80s music on the ride home from Pet Bin. He looked sort of grim. I kept sneaking glances of Klawde safely back in his cat carrier. When dogs do something bad, they look guilty. Not Klawde. He was definitely purring now. Dad cleared his throat. "What happened at Pet Bin?" "You're not going to make me give him away, are you?" I said. "Because I don't have any friends here, and if I don't get to keep Klawde, I'll be all alone and miserable." "Raj," she said, "you are going to make friends at Camp Eclipse." "Don't remind me," I said. "But what I was going to say is the vet took a gamble with Klawde today, and he lost. You did warn him. So I can keep Klawde?" My dad nodded. "But you and he had better be careful. If the animal scratches your mother, it'll be the last thing he ever does," I said. "Exactly." I peered into Klawde's cage. "Did you hear that, boy? You've got to be nice." Klawde looked me right in the eyes and blinked. He almost seemed to understand what I was saying. And then he hacked up a giant hairball. Sounds like a cat thing to do. Chapter 10. Oh, the humiliations of exile. A hairball. I had to find an excavating robot on this planet. Back at the fortress, the humans released me from the cage and opened the items they had stolen from the territory of the bleeding man. And then they placed them before me, like an offering. Did they realize I was their superior? Were they pledging their underlying loyalty to me? This would be most excellent. I inspected their gifts. There was a small tower with rope wound around it, a sculpture, maybe. There were also several fluffy fake animals that they tried to coax me into attacking and killing. Was this their idea of military training? As you can see in the image below, we can see some typical cat toys and an unimpressed Klawde. These were disappointing offerings indeed. They next took out a box, poured some sort of sand into it, and attached a cover. They kept lifting me up and placing me inside. I had no idea what they wanted me to do in there. Dig? But why? Finally, there was food, if you could even call it that. The only reason I knew they expected me to eat the pebble-like pellets was the way the big ogre kept pretending to put them into its mouth. Not that he was eating the pellets. No, the humans had something altogether different to dine on. Strange smells, delicious smells, came from the pot that the long-furred human was stirring. I spit out the pellets and jumped near the flaming metal box to sample this food, but the long-furred human pushed me off. The gall. If only I had my molecular disintegrator, I would have vaporized it. Did this ogre have any idea what I did to the entire population of Pussycat? I again leaped to the firebox and again was shoved off. We shall see about this. For those of you that have cats at home or know somebody with a cat, whenever you're cooking, did you ever think about it from the cat's perspective? If they're like, ooh, that smells delicious, and they hop on the counter to get a closer look? Well, typically we don't want cat or cat fur within our food, so we usually gently put the cat back down on the ground. But from this cat's perspective, he's seeing it as almost disrespectful. Chapter 11. Monday morning. Mount Eclipse Welcome Cabin. 500 feet, the sign read. Even though we'd pulled into the parking lot, I was still desperately trying to get out of the whole nature camp thing. Mom refused to listen. Look, Raj, she said, as we walked from the car. This camp is a wonderful opportunity for you to understand the natural world, learn important survival skills, and beef up your college applications. But I'm going into 6th grade, I said, and I thought the point of camp was to make friends. Oh, yes, of course, friends. Mom pointed to a group of kids who looked 2 years older than me. How about them? She said. As Mom signed me into camp, I watched the kids stab at trees with pocket knives. I had no idea what they were doing, but they did not look friendly. When I turned back, my mom was already walking to our Prius. Have fun, she called, and drove away. Fun. Yeah, right. Interesting that her mom would say, how about them? Interesting set of kids that she would want to pair him up with, but a friend is a friend, right? Hi, what's your forest name? A girl had just materialized in front of me, like some sort of nature ninja. Her face was painted with mud. My what? The dried mud was cracking on her cheeks. It looked itchy. At Camp Eclipse, everyone has a forest name. Mine is Cedar, she said. Before I could say anything, I felt a big hand press down on my shoulder. I turned around to see a kid the size of a refrigerator looming over me. Now we can look at this image. Here seems to be the nature ninja girl he's describing. And here is a boy who he is comparing to a refrigerator. A kid the size of a refrigerator. So he's comparing this boy to the size of a refrigerator. Many of you probably have a refrigerator at home. Imagine a giant refrigerator child standing behind you. That's what he's feeling like. I'm Wolf, he said. That's a great forest name, Cedar said. That's my real name, the big guy said. My forest name is Steve. Cedar and I looked at each other. It seemed like a bad idea to correct him. What's your name? Steve asked me. I'm Ra... I started to say my real name, but that was wrong. So I thought fast and finished. Rat. Did I just name myself Rat? Do they even have rats in nature? Steve grinned. That's cool. We're going to learn so much in nature camp. You guys are going to love it, Cedar cried. I can't wait until survival night. Just as I was about to ask what survival night meant exactly, the sound of a strange hissing animal filled the air. Except it wasn't an animal. It was a tall, skinny guy with a big, bushy beard. He was standing on top of a large stump and flapping his long arms. Cedar told us that this was the park ranger, who was also our camp counselor. His forest name is Turkey Vulture. Why is he hissing? I asked. Is there something wrong with him? No, it's the sound of a turkey vulture. Duh. That's how he calls us to the speaking stump, Cedar said. Follow me. I looked at the counselor again. I didn't care what Cedar said. There was definitely something wrong with him. Chapter 12. With the humans gone, I had the fortress to myself. It was time to locate their intergalactic teleporter and return to my planet to have my revenge. Finding it proved difficult, however. For one thing, the humans put portals between their rooms for some reason. And like everything else on this barbaric planet, they weren't designed for opposable thumbs. Hiss! Why couldn't they just use universal touchscreens for everything like we did back home? I took a nap and considered what to do. 5 minutes later, I was hungry. The food situation had thus been far intolerable. Worse than the petrified pellets was this foul-smelling canned sludge they seemed to think was a treat for me. Their food they placed inside an enormous box that was divided into 2 compartments. Using all my strength, I managed to pull one compartment open. The food inside was frozen solid. But why? The second compartment, however, held items that were merely cold. I licked everything. Much of what the humans considered food disgusted me. There was, however, a long yellow rectangle that was rather tasty, and an even more delicious white liquid inside a carton. I also found a box of 12 smooth brown ovals. I bit into one. It cracked open, and a yellow-orange glob suspended in a thicker, clear goo oozed out. I ate it. It was disgusting. I went and vomited it into one of the ogre's foot coverings. Let's break down some of these things. You can see in the image, he's talking about a long yellow rectangle that was rather tasty and even more delicious white liquid inside of this carton. But then he's talking about the 12 smooth brown ovals, probably the eggs, because a yellow-orange glob suspended in a thick, clear goo oozed out. That's probably what's happening right now. Also, he's making a disgusted-looking face, which is why he's saying it's disgusting. But when he's vomiting in an ogre's foot coverings, ogre, human, foot coverings, shoes. Uh-oh. Chapter 13. Looks like this is Turkey Vulture. Monday morning. The park ranger kept hissing and flapping until we'd all gathered around the big stump he was standing on. Then he smiled at us. Was it just me, or did he have a lot of teeth? Welcome to Can Eclipse, nature newbies. My name is Turkey Vulture, and I'm your survival leader. Before we begin today's activities, let us put on our deer ears. I look over at Cedar and the other older kids, who were all cupping their ears behind their ears, hands behind their ears. I did the same, and the sounds around me, birds, wind, insects, got louder. This is the sound of nature, Turkey Vulture said. It sounded pretty nice, actually, not nearly as spooky as I'd expected. Some fear that humans are destroying the planet, but Earth will be here long after we are gone. Nature is indestructible, Turkey Vulture went on. Humans, on the other hand, are not. He paused dramatically. However, if you learn to live with nature, there is hope for you. When you begin to understand nature's secret, you may be able to survive the future that is coming. The day when you can no longer just buy whatever you want, such as soda, skateboards, pants. And here he looked straight at me. Or American Man comic books in a store. I felt a chill up my spine. It was like he could see right into my soul. Then he smiled with all those teeth again. The first step is to learn to navigate our way in nature, Turkey Vulture went on. Does anyone have any idea how we do this? It seemed like everyone except me was raising their hands, but Turkey Vulture called on me anyway. I gulped. Well, once my dad and I got off the highway at a rest stop that was really naturey behind the parking lot. We went for a walk and got super lost, but we used Google Earth to find our way to an In-N-Out burger. Everyone just stared at me. Then we called a car, which took us back to the, rest stop. The other kids began to snicker and looked to see what Turkey Vulture would say. The camp counselor narrowed his eyes at me. Do you have a phone on you now? He asked. I said yes. He shuddered in horror. Does anyone else have any technology? Steve raised his hand. Does an iPad count? One of the older kids, who I'd heard called Scorpion, said, What a bunch of losers these little kids are. After walking Steve and me to the cabin with the welcome sign on it, Turkey Vulture made us put our devices into what he called the forbidden basket. Then he led us, all of us, under a giant Camp Eclipse arc, which, he said, represented the gateway between civilization and nature. Ooh, a no-technology camp. Think about your technology usage. Would you be able to attend something like Camp Eclipse if you had to give up your technology? As I walked through, Turkey Vulture wrinkled his nose. The stench of civilization is strong on you, camper. It wasn't meant as a compliment, but I took it as one. Chapter 14. I took a nap and then resumed my search for a teleporter. There were large brown boxes scattered throughout the fortress, and I discovered that this was where the humans kept their technology, if you could even call it that. It was also primitive, and nothing even worked. Enraged, I batted at the thin black tail of the nearest appliance. Almost all their technological objects had tails with 3 silver prongs at the tip. Were they for decoration? Technology objects, the silver prongs. Think about how you plug in your chargers into the wall. I believe this is what Klawde is talking about. Everything does look better with a tail, after all. Then I noticed several holes in the wall that were the same size as the silver prongs and the nails. Perhaps this was a power source? Look at that smart cat figuring things out. I inserted the prongs into the wall, and the object sent hot air blasting into my face. Hiss! I shut it off and began putting more tail prongs into wall holes. The results were extremely disappointing. Most of the humans' apparatuses had to do with creating light or heat. After more searching, I found what I hoped was a photon gun, but the wire contraptions at the end of it did not fire 10 gigajoules of electricity. They just spun around. I cannot imagine what this was for. Could you barely maim even one enemy at a time with it? On the bright side, the brown boxes were satisfying in their own right. Like our wonderful sleeping quarters back home, I got in one and took a nap. That sounds very cat-like. Cats love sleeping in boxes. Have you ever seen funny things where if you buy a cat bed for your cat, they end up sleeping in the box that it shipped in anyways? Cats love boxes. Cats also love sleeping in other odd places, such as plant pots or on top of food, plates and things like that. We used to have a little fruit tray that our cat would literally sleep on top of bananas, and I don't know how that was comfortable, but she enjoyed it. So cats pretty much probably can nap anywhere. Refreshed, I looked through more boxes, but it was hopeless. These ogres did not have multifaceted glob coils or photonic scramblers, let alone an intergalactic teleporter. I don't know about you guys, but I'm also lacking those things at my house. I would have to build one myself out of their junk. It could take weeks, and where would I even work? The only place I had any privacy was in the covered box filled with sand. I brought their most promising piece of technology inside the box and began to take it apart. It had a timing mechanism and a spinning tray, and it created radiation. Useful. I had finally realized what they wanted me to do in that covered box, by the way. Pee and poop. The humans apparently wanted to collect feline excrement. Why? I had no idea, but I refused to supply them with it. Instead, I relieved myself where they did, in a room that contained a shiny white bowl half filled with a small pool of liquid. With one press of a lever, the pee and poop were flushed away, and voila, a fresh pool appeared. It was certainly their most interesting device. Where were those terrible humans anyway? They had been gone many nap times. Would they ever return? I feared the battle had gone poorly for them. There have been cats that have been trained how to actually use a toilet, which is very convenient, I would say, for those of us who don't want to empty out litter boxes daily or every other day. Him talking about time and the concept of time for cats is different than us. For us, when we go to work or when we go to school and we're gone for 6 to 8 hours a day is different. Cats do take lots of naps, but he's taken several naps, and if the humans still aren't home, he's wondering if they're ever going to return or if they're in a battle and it's gone poorly for them. For us, we're just gone about our normal daily routines. But for cats or maybe other pets you have at home, they might really miss you and thinking that you've been gone for a very, very long time. Chapter 15. Monday evenings. So did you have fun at nature camp? My mom asked when she got home. It's survival camp, I said. Did you even read this place before you signed me up? Of course I did. Your new school recommended it. Well, it was not fun. We played hide or get eaten. That sounds amusing, she said. It was terrifying. And it was. We got split into 2 groups, predators and prey. Cedar told me It was just nature tag, but Scorpion and his pals took the kill or get killed concept way too seriously. Their idea of tag was to shove the younger kids into the mud and try to step on us. I see you did some arts and crafts too. Mom held up my name badge, which was a cross-section of a tree on a necklace of twine. Rat. Why does it say rat? It's my forest name, Mom. It's written in blood. My blood. You have such an imagination, Raj. It was actually just beet juice, but it might as well have been blood. You really need to work on your handwriting, however, she said. Before she could assign me penmanship drills, I went to find Klawde. Instead, I found Dad, wandering around the kitchen looking confused. Have you seen my flashlight? He asked. Or the microwave? Sorry. He poked his head into one of the moving boxes. I swear it was in here. I shrugged and kept looking for Klawde. Then I heard clinking noises in the basement, so I went downstairs. They sounded like they were coming from the litter box. Klawde, I said. The clinking stopped. 2 seconds later, Klawde stepped out of the covered box. For the first time, he had that guilty dog look. Oh, there, boy, I said. You don't have to be embarrassed about using the litter box. Here, I'll clean it for you. When I went to open the lid, Klawde hissed and swatted at me. Ouch, okay, I said. Your space, I get it. I don't like it when my parents come into my room either. Upstairs, I heard Dad at the front door. What is in my shoes? He yelled. Is this? Oh, ew. Gross, Klawde. Have you ever had a similar experience where an animal may have thrown up or had a fur ball somewhere near or on your bed or in your shoes? Ew. Having lots of pets growing up, I've definitely experienced that more than one time. Or, on the less maybe gross side, a dog eating your shoe or eating your favorite toy or something like that. It can happen. Chapter 16. The return of the boy human interrupted my work, and I was forced to bury what I had done under the sand and make myself look innocent. For the rest of the day, I observed the humans more closely, trying to understand their ways. One oddity was how they ate. Why did they use their metal tools and weapons to bring the food up to their mouths rather than just bringing their mouths down to the plate? Could they be so stupid that they never thought of it? It dawned on me that perhaps such behavior, as well as the lack of technology in the fortress, was not the state of all humankind, but of these particular humans. I had discovered several other disappointing facts about them. They were not warlords, or warriors, or soldiers of any kind. 2. The weapon packs they carried out of the fortress were not, in fact, weapon packs. They were filled with snacks. 3. Their fortress was not a fortress. It was a mere dwelling, a home. 4. They were not all its. The one with the long fur on the head was a female, and the other 2 were males. I don't know why it's so hard to tell them apart when it's so easy with cats. Interesting point of view. Do you think it's easy to tell a boy cat or a female cat from a male cat? Just as he's trying to say that it's hard to tell females and male humans apart. The last fact wasn't actually disappointing, but a bit of a zoological interest. The first 3, however, had me thinking that maybe my humans were not the best examples of their species. Perhaps other stronger humans had better technology, like an intergalactic teleporter. To find out, I needed to escape. Chapter 17. Tuesday morning. I was barely awake yet, but Mom handed me a granola bar, shoved me into the Prius, and 10 minutes later she was dumping me off at the welcome cabin again. "Survive!" she called as she pulled away. I left my phone in the forbidden basket and followed the sound of hissing to the speaking stump. I don't know who I was less excited to see, Scorpion and his bully pals, or our counselor who was just beginning his morning talk. "Today we begin to learn the language of the forest," Turkey Vulture declared. "Wild animals are one with nature, and they leave both tracks and signs for us to follow. Can someone tell me the difference?" Cedar's hand shot up. "Tracks are footprints, and signs are everything else," she said, "like claw marks on a tree or a big pile of bear scat." "Excellent," Turkey Vulture said, "and we must pay attention to both. Now, comrades, follow me." We marched off into the woods, and pretty soon I was so turned around I had no idea where we were. I'm going to pause right there and ask you a question. How are you with directions? Mrs. Neeley, I would say that I have a pretty good sense of directions. My north, east, south, and west. The sun rises in the east, coming from the east coast, and sets in the west. So if you know the direction your sun is going, then you're able to find out your location or the direction that you are traveling in. That's a little hint I learned. And if I park my car in the parking lot, I'm usually pretty good about locating it. When I go hiking with my family, we've hiked at Turkey Run and a few other campsites in Wisconsin, and I can read a map pretty well and find out the trails and where we're going and how to get back to our campsite. How are you with finding locations and using maps or reading maps? If you get lost in a forest, you might walk around in endless circles and never get out. But if you find one of these, you are saved. Turkey Vulture pointed to a narrow dirt track worn into the ground. A deer path always goes somewhere because deer, unlike humans, never go in circles and they never get lost. He led us even deeper into the forest and then told us each to find a deer trail and use it to get back to the stump. Everyone found one right away, except me. I was lost and alone within minutes. After wandering around for what seemed like forever, feeling stupid and scared, I finally stumbled back to the group. Turkey Vulture was on the speaking stump in the middle of a lecture about bird language, and everybody had their deer ears on. See, I told you Rat would eventually find his way, Turkey Vulture said cheerfully. Welcome back, Cedar whispered. Turkey Vulture began to whistle in high, short bursts, and then he made some cute peeping noises. You have just heard the sound of a brown creeper and a common yellowthroat, he told us. Most people think birdsong is just pretty music, but it is in fact the sound of greetings, courtship, and warnings. Birds are forest messengers, and even their silence tells us something. Can anyone tell me why you don't hear this much birdsong in your little yards at home? Turkey Vulture asked. Not enough trees, one kid said. Too many cars, another guessed. Lawnmowers, Steve said. Turkey Vulture nodded thoughtfully. These are not stupid theories, he said, but there is one culprit, one vicious predator that is most to blame. His sharp eyes swept over us, but no one dared to guess. Cats, Turkey Vulture exclaimed. Wherever they roam, they hunt and murder songbirds. In fact, the domesticated house cat is the only living creature more destructive than human beings. Turkey Vulture's voice grew cold. If human beings truly cared about nature, they would stop letting these savage, evil beasts out of their homes. Klawde? Evil? Now that was ridiculous. If only cats would become an endangered species, Turkey Vulture cried happily, because on that day, my friends, the songs of the birds would be joyful indeed. Then he hopped off the speaking stump and danced around, making a lot of chirping, trilling noises. I turned to Steve. Our counselor is crazy, I said. It made me want to run home and see my kitty cat right now. If only I knew the way. So I'm getting the idea that Raj, aka Rat, is not a very good directions kind of guy, especially in nature. Chapter 18. I watched the humans disappear into their tank, which, sigh, was just a motorized go-kart with no rocket-launching weaponry whatsoever. Leaping down from the window, I went to the front portal. Through careful study, I discovered that it worked on a simpler level. All I had to do was reach up, pull it down, and ha! I was free. Recent surveillance of this zone had revealed the existence of more Earth cats, and I hoped one of them would know which of the local humans had the best technology. Across the road, I spotted a flabby, gray-striped tabby who never left one particular window. He appeared stuck to it. I had low hopes for that one. In the fortress behind mine, however, lived an orange cat who came and went from her house at will through a push entrance specifically designed for felines. Here, at last, was some evidence of technological advancement. I hurried toward the swinging cat-sized door. I pushed against it, as I had seen the orange cat do, but nothing happened. I pushed harder with my head. Still nothing. Did it work off of a retinal scan? DNA imaging? This was sophisticated technology indeed. I waited in a nearby bush until the orange cat came out for her morning exercises. Greetings, feline sister, I said, exiting the bush. Meow, she said. She blinked dumbly at me. Meow? Oh no, not this again. Chapter 19. Tuesday afternoon. We had been told not to pack lunches because food would be provided. This turned out to be very misleading. When you know how to forage, the forest will feed you, Turkey Vulture declared. He showed us how to search out berries, wild garlic, chicory, and cattails. The plants weren't that hard to find, but they mostly tasted like grass clippings. Steve did not listen to the part about how to pick and prepare stinging nettles, a lesson he learned painfully. While Cedar called me over to see what she had found under a fallen log, it looked like rice, which I had no idea grew under logs. Then the rice started to move. Uh-oh. I don't know about you, but the rice I know doesn't move. What do you think this is? Go ahead and make a prediction. Cedar called me over to see what she had found under a fallen log. It looked like rice, which I had no idea grew under logs. But the rice started to move. Excellent find, Turkey Vulture cried happily. Grubs, beetles, and insect larvae are a vital part of the wilderness diet. Then he popped a handful of wriggling white things into his mouth. Remember that it's not about taste, it's about survival. Gross. If this was survival, I'd rather die of starvation. When we got back to the speaking stump, Turkey Vulture said it was time to choose our packs. Our what? I asked Cedar. Our nature team, she said. Why do we need teams? For survival night, she said. Without a pack, you wouldn't last 5 minutes. You mean in the game, right? I said. Right? Cedar just smiled at me as she nibbled on a cattail tuber. Like to make a connection to Raj. In survival, I would rather die of starvation than eat a handful of wriggling white things. Mrs. Neeley goes fishing sometimes with her families, and I can touch a worm and maybe a grub to put it on a hook in order to catch a fish. But when it comes to eating things like that, I don't think I could do it. I was afraid no one would want to pick me, but when Turkey Vulture asked Cedar to choose her pack, she pointed at me and Steve. Interesting choices, Turkey Vulture said skeptically. Then Turkey Vulture asked Scorpion who was in his pack. Snake and Newt, Scorpion said, pointing to the two kids next to him. Snake was tall and skinny, and Newt was short and freckled, with long, stringy braids. Neither of them looked friendly. I'm assuming Scorpion, Newt, and Snake were those boys from earlier in the book. I'm going to pause really quickly and head back to that page when it first gave us a description of them, right over here. I don't know who is who, except for this braids is probably Newt. Says Snake is tall and skinny, so maybe this is Snake, Newt, and that is Scorpion. Interesting. These are our friends, our kind of bullyish kind of friends that are coming to this camp with him. Scorpion are those insects, whatever those are, with those tails that come back and can stab you. Snakes are those, wiggly wobbly snakes. And newts, they're kind of like a little water lizard. My sister had newts growing up. It's like a lizard that likes to be submerged into water a lot. So these are those three pals. A bunch of cold bloods, eh? Turkey Vulture said. Scorpion nodded. We were here on this planet first, and we'll be here last, they high-fived. Turkey Vulture smiled. I like your spirit, as well as your forest names. But are scorpions indigenous to our area? No, they're from the desert, I called out. Elba's more of a temperate rainforest, so scorpions are actually out of place here. I was so excited I finally knew something. Thank you, 5th grade ecology unit. Rat, you may not be as ignorant as I assumed, Turkey Vulture said. I think that Rat Pack's chances just improved. Now Cedar and Steve high-fived me, and I was feeling pretty good until I saw the death rays eyes Scorpion was sending my way. Great. I hadn't made a real friend here yet, but I've managed to make an enemy. Uh-oh. See, school is important. If he didn't take 5th grade ecology unit, he wouldn't be able to stand up to this guy. Chapter 20. Meow. It was the same strange word the cats in the prison market had spoken, but what could it mean? Miss, please, I said slowly. My name is Whiskas, Lord High Emperor of Planet Litterbox, and I seek answers about the humans and their technology. Meow, she said. No matter how I tried to communicate, she repeated that one word. Meow, meow, meow. She must have some sort of brain damage. Maybe the swinging door had hit her in the head one too many times. I had no choice but to approach the Flabby Tabby. I crossed the road and hopped up to the ledge of the Flabby Tabby's window. Immediately, the cat showed his first signs of life. He arched his back, his fur went up, and he began to hiss. Assassin's pose. It warmed my heart. At least these earth cats were not all meek morons. Please, feline brother, I say, I come in peace. I seek information on the carnivorous ogres known as humans. Meow, he cried. Meow, meow. Was it possible? Could these earth felines know only one word? A word of utter nonsense, no less? Thousands of years on this dismal planet must have turned the entire feline race stupid. I never would have believed it. This was why they had never overthrown the humans. They had become even more stupid than the humans. I was out of options. I knew I needed to learn everything I could about the ogres if I was ever going to leave this wretched planet. There was only one way to do it. I would have to invade their brains. Pausing right here to have you reflect on what do you think that's going to look like? A cat invading human brains. What do you think Claude's going to do? What's he up to? Chapter 21. Wednesday. Has anyone seen the toaster? My dad asked at breakfast, helplessly holding 2 floppy halves of an English muffin. I really need it. Mom grinned. I thought the only thing you needed was your Derek Jeter baseball. Does it not make toast? It was strange. It seemed like our small appliances had gone missing. Of course, I'd watched Dad spend an hour looking for car keys that were in his back pocket, but still. Who do you think has these kitchen appliances? It's a real mystery, I said. Why don't I stay home from camp and help unpack everything so we can get to the bottom of it? Nice try, dear, Mom said. Now get in the car. At the speaking stump, Turkey Vulture was holding forth on today's activity. Fishing! Using baskets you weave yourselves, you will scoop fish from the stream. Then you will gut, roast, and eat your prey. I raised my hand. I don't eat meat, I said. Turkey Vulture looked appalled. It's a cultural thing, I said. My whole family is vegetarian. This wasn't totally true. My mom's family was from Karnataka, and they were all serious vegetarians. But Dad snuck hamburgers more than he'd ever admit. It was not by chance that we wound up at an In-N-Out burger that time we got lost. Turkey Vulture just sighed and put me on a basket weaving duty. That's interesting. Now we're finding out a little bit more about our character's backstory. My mom's family was from Karnataka. I've never heard of that before. Later, I might look that place up. Scorpion walked by with a spear he'd made from a fallen branch. You know what they call a vegetarian in the woods, he said to me. Prey. Gulp. Everyone else ate themselves silly at lunch. I was so hungry when Dad picked me up, I scarfed down a half-eaten pack of bunny crackers that had been in the seat pocket since I was in 4th grade. Camp had exhausted me too, and I fell asleep almost as soon as I got home. Then I had the weirdest dream. I was back at camp, and the birds were singing so loudly that I couldn't hear what Turkey Vulture was saying. He started pouring birdseed over my head, and the birds flew down and started to pecking at me, and I woke up. But I still felt the pecking, like needles in my scalp. Ow! But I still felt the pecking, like needles in my scalp. So, he's comparing how he feels on his head to like when birds are pecking at his head, and how they feel like needles getting poked into his scalp. What do you think actually happened? Figuratively, this is how the author is describing it. What could have actually happened? Oh, there's a good visual. It was Claude. He was kneading my head with his paws. Meow, Claude said. His first real meow. It was so cute. The claws digging into my forehead really hurt, though. Chapter 22. I was just about to complete the mind meld technique when the small human awoke. Hiss! Meow, I said, pretending to be an idiot earth cat. The ogre fell for my ruse. The fool. Although I had not finished the mind meld, I had explored enough of the boy ogre's brain to learn what I needed to. For one thing, I now knew that I never wanted to be inside a human mind again. The creature's cranium was like a dark cave with no exit. But at least I could now understand the human's language and some of their ways. The young ogre, it turned out, had a name. Raj Banerjee. The long-furred ogre was Mom, and the big, dull one was Dad. Depressingly, none of them understood anything about technology. They had never even visited another planet. This, I now knew, was the sad truth of all humans. So I learned something else, something truly bizarre. The young ogre loved me. This love was an entirely unfeline concept. Was it an emotion, like pride or aggression, or a type of illness? I suspected the latter. The most mystifying symptom of this affliction was that one ogre would choose to serve another ogre or animal that it loved. How impossibly strange these humans were. The boy human placed his bald paw on my head and scratched gently at my ears. Surprisingly, I did not mind this. Then it struck me. The boy ogre had opposable thumbs. This meant that he would be able to help me build my teleporter. And since he suffered from this love affection, he would do my bidding without question. Purr. I think it's funny that this cat is making love, thinking that it's a kind of illness that humans have. What is your opinion on love and thinking about who do you love? Is it your pet cat or is it someone in your family? Who is someone that you love and how does that concept feel for you? To us, it might feel like caring for someone and filling your heart with joy and happiness. But for Klawde, he's comparing it to an illness because he just simply doesn't know what love is. Maybe on his cat planet, he's never experienced love. It's an entirely unfeline concept. Chapter 23. Friday evening. It was 9 p.m., and week 1 of the most miserable experience of my life was finally over. I actually limped into my room and locked the door. Klawde was sleeping on my pillow. "You are so lucky you're a cat," I said, crawling into bed and pulling the covers up to my chin. "You get to lie around the house all day while I have to go to psycho survival camp." Klawde leaped to the window ledge and did his furry gargoyle thing. I thought yesterday was the worst. We had to run up and down the mountain 5 times and do 3 branch pull-ups. Then there was boulder rolling. I rubbed my blisters. The Forced Olympics, Turkey Vulture called it. After that, he had us whittle spears, which was cool until Steve sat on mine and broke it. And Scorpion kept pretending that I was the deer hide target. Raj's room. Do not touch. Klawde flicked his tail, hopped down from the window, and started pawing at the door. "You can leave, Klawde," I said, "because I have to tell you..." "You can't leave, Klawde," I said, "because I have to tell you about today. Turkey Vulture said we couldn't wear shoes anymore and made us put them in the forbidden basket. He calls walking barefoot earthing, and says humans have done it since the beginning of time. Everything will put you in touch with the nature's polarity of the planet and allow you to tap into the Earth's energy," he told us. That made it sound like we were getting a superpower, which would have been cool, but rocks are sharp. And do you have any idea how many different kinds of plants have thorns on them? For some reason, Klawde was now jumping at the door lock and doing crazy, torturing yowling of his. That sounds like the pain I feel. I asked Turkey Vulture for some Band-Aids, but he said that cuts were a minor inconvenience on the way to getting our forest feet. I scratched at one of my 1,000 bug bites. The last thing he told us was how we should enjoy our weekend. For after survival night, your lives will never be the same. Can you believe that? Crazy, right? Klawde was just staring at me now, his tail swishing. He looked about as sympathetic as my mom had been at dinner when I'd asked her if I could skip the second week of camp. She told me to forget it. "Raj has tried for a whole week, dear," Dad pointed out. But that didn't matter to her. "We never give up," Mom said. "A Banjaree always finishes what she starts." "But Mom, I'm not a she." That's not the point. In other words, I was going back. I hopped off the bed and put my face close to Claude's. I just wish there was no Camp Eclipse and no Oregon. I could go home to Brooklyn, I said. Life is too hard here. And then Claude said something in English. Chapter 24. I was trapped in that locked room with the boy human and his incessant, pathetic complaining. I would rather have my fur plucked out hair by hair than listen to one more word. I had to say something. Will you stop whining and shut up? Well, maybe that wasn't what I should have said. The human's jaw dropped open. He backed away from me. Claude, he said, did you just speak to me? There was terror in his voice. I liked that. I considered keeping up my charade by saying meow. He'd think he was going mad. A delicious idea. But I needed this boy human's help if I ever wanted to get back home. I had to do some fast talking. Raj Banjari of Earth, I say in my most majestic tone. I am not of this planet. I come from a highly advanced world on the other side of the universe. The human now appeared unable to speak. I was not sure if this was due to awe, fear, or basic idiocy. I am not, however, your average space cat. On my planet I led a glorious revolution. A glorious revolution which united all cats together in peace. Yes, peace, I purred. I ruled my planet as a kind of benevolent warlord. The human just blinked at me. Okay. The boy ogre said slowly, so my cat is an alien warlord? A kind alien warlord. A kind alien warlord cat? His puny brain appeared to be processing this information. Could he possibly be gullible enough to buy it? That's the coolest thing ever, he said, leaping back to life. I can't believe it. I'm the luckiest kid in the world. Then the boy human began blurting out annoying questions. How can you talk? How did you get here? Why did you leave your planet? Are there people where you live? What about dogs? Is there gravity? How many suns do you have? Can I see your spaceship? Have you ever seen a black hole? Why did you come to Earth? Have you been to Mars? Enough, I said. My right paw cat betrayed me, and I was sent to this planet in exile. Oh, the boy human looked at me curiously. Hey, so what's your alien name? Alien name? My real name, I said, is Whiskers. Aw, that's so cute. Your name is Whiskers. No, not Whiskers. These humans with their fat, bloated tongues, they couldn't pronounce anything correctly. It's Whiskers. Whiskers. The boy ogre shrugged. Sounds like Whiskers to me. I had vaporized ambassadors and kings for lesser insults, but as I needed this human's help to get home, I made an exception. This cat makes himself sound very dangerous. Vaporizing ambassadors and kings for lesser insults. He's just saying his name slightly different, but he's saying he vaporized people for lesser insults than that. Chapter 25. Saturday. When I woke up that morning, I was sure it had all been a dream. I immediately went to look for Claude, but he wasn't in the kitchen, or staring out of the front window, or napping in any of his usual spots. Where was he? I've had looked more, but I first had to go to the bathroom. I opened the door. Excuse me. Claude was sitting on the toilet, reading the Wall Street Journal. Oh, sorry, I said, and quickly shut the door. Wow, my cat really was an alien. Who talked and could read and use the toilet. How cool. And not only that, he had ruled a whole planet. He was a warlord, but a kind warlord. A kind alien warlord cat. It was all true. I had the best pet ever. And I had so many more questions. What kind of special alien powers do you have? I whispered through the door. Are you as powerful as America Man? I asked. What is life like on your cat planet? Is there oxygen there? Trees? Mice? Houses? I waited for him to answer, but he hissed at me for some reason. How did you unite your planet? I went on. How big is your planet? How do cats fight there? With weapons? Do they fight in space? I've been obsessed with space ever since I went to the planetarium on a second grade class trip. Is there life on lots of other planets? How do you travel through space? What is it like to travel through space? Can I travel through space? I heard another hiss, and then the toilet flushing. I can't wait to tell my friends back in Brooklyn, I said. They won't believe I have an alien cat. The door swung open to reveal Klawde standing in the doorway. No, he said, swishing his tail. My existence on your planet must be a secret. Tell no one. What? I say, confused. Why? Klawde leaped to the top of the hall bookshelf and was now at eye level with me. Tell no one, he said fiercely. Okay, I said, putting my hands up. Klawde fluffed up his tail. We are dealing with a very serious matter. I won't tell anyone, I promise. I'm referring to something else now. He licked a paw and gazed straight into my eyes. I need your help. Will you help me, Raj? Of course, I said. I'll do anything. He purred. I need you to help me build a teleporter, he said, so I can return to Litterbox. Chapter 26. The boy ogre wore his most senseless expression yet. Litterbox, he said, but you have the litter box you bought you right here, with a snap-on lid and everything. This time it took all the strength I possessed not to fling myself at his idiotically happy face. I brushed my whiskers with a paw and composed myself. Perhaps it is best for you not to attempt to pronounce the sophisticated sound of my planet, I said. The look on the boy ogre's face told me that, at last, some of the synapses in his brain were firing. Wait, what are you saying? He said. That you want to go back to your planet? Or maybe the synapses weren't firing after all. Of course I want to go back to my planet, I cried. Suddenly the boy human was no longer happy. In fact, he looked as if he'd been wounded. Could this have been something to do with the strange love disease? You want to leave, he said, but you just got here. I had to calm the ogre down in order to secure his help, so I lied. It is not for myself that I must return home. Why, I would love to stay here on this wonderful planet. I felt another hairball coming on. But I have to return home so I can rescue all the poor cats I left behind. But you're my only real friend here, the ogre said. Then drops of water began leaking out of the human's eyes and sliding down his furless face. What was wrong with this creature? I want to go with you, he wailed, wiping away the eye fluid. Oh, how I wish you could come with me, I said. I was lying again, of course. But then I thought, yes, come with me. Imagine having a giant at my side to help me reconquer Litterbox. I'd be invincible. I could see the terrified look on General Fang's face now. Purr. For someone with such limited intelligence, the idea of space travel would be terrifying, of course. But what if I could make his own planet seem worse than terrifying? After all, our mind meld had told me much about the boy ogre's prospects here, and they did not look good. Oh, how wonderful it would be if you could come with me. You would love my planet, I said. But you have your excellent survival camp to complete. And there's this new city to get to know, and a whole new school you must attend. I'm sure you will be very popular. No doubt all the older child humans will be very, very welcoming. The little human looked like he was about to cough up a hairball. This was my greatest evil plan yet. If I could convince him to come along, the monstrous boy ogre would be my one-soldier army. I would string General Fang up by his tail, and the most high throne would once again be mine. Swish, purr, purr. Before I continue reading, we're about halfway through this book. Make a prediction about what do you think is going to happen. Now that he's communicating with the boy, what do you think is going to happen towards the end of the book? Do you think they'll make it back to the Litterbox planet? Do you think Raj will convince Klawde to stay with him? What do you think is going to happen? Chapter 27. Sunday. Disappointed was not the word. Disappointed was when the Knicks lost a game. Disappointed was when the ice cream shop ran out of chocolate. Disappointed was when I left my new stack of comics on the subway. Can you think of your own example of a disappointed kind of time or situation? But this, learning that my pet was a kind alien warlord cat, and the next day finding out that he was leaving, that was a billion times more disappointing than any disappointment ever. And what was worse, I had to help him leave. Human, pay attention, Klawde said. Align the diode with the capacitor, and then move the magnetron 7 degrees left. Huh? Klawde sighed and shook his head at me. We were in the basement, surrounded by microwave parts, blender pieces, hairdryer bits, and DVD player fragments. I'd finally learned where all of our appliances were going. Straight into Klawde's otherwise unused litter box, or as he called it, his workstation. Thankfully, he'd let me move the operation from the litter box into the shop in the basement. It had a bunch of tools the previous owners had left behind, and it was the one room my parents never went into. We'd been working for hours now. Yes, line it up like that, Klawde said. No, back to the right a bit. Use your thumbs. Sorry. Building with Klawde was kind of fun, as long as I didn't think about what I was making, a device that would take my pet away. Klawde did yell a lot, though. He got especially mad when I couldn't follow his written directions. Point 17K states you must make the energetic particle radiation density buffer bypass the aft tactical resonance coil, Klawde said. How much clearer could it be? Let me read that one more time. Point 17K states you must take the energetic particle radiation density buffer bypass the aft tactical resonance coil, Klawde said. How much clearer could that be? That makes no sense to me. For any of you builders out there, maybe you recognize some of these words, but not me. The problem was that I couldn't understand his alien claw writing. It just looked like scratch cardboard to me. As I unthreaded the tiny screws from the density buffer, whatever that was, I asked Klawde if he missed his whole planet. Of course I miss it, Klawde said. It is a place of marvels beyond human comprehension, and I ruled it with an iron paw. Cats trembled when I spoke. My minions... I thought you said you were a nice warlord, I said. Oh yes, Klawde said. Just kidding. Have I told you about the Purring Palace? While I worked on the teleporter, Klawde described the wonders of his home planet. I tell you, I miss each and every one of the 87 moons of Litterbox, Klawde said. I even miss the toxic yellow atmosphere of number 74. And I miss all of Brooklyn, I said. Even the toxic green water from the Galmanus Canal. Human, Klawde said with a sigh. We are both in exile. Oh, now look at Claude's trying to make him and Raj seem like they're connecting and that they're both in exile. Klawde from the Litterbox planet and Raj from the city of New York. It's also kind of funny that they both moved the same distance. What was that from the beginning of the book? 2,904 tenths miles or whatever that was. Let me go back and find that number. It was a very interesting part of the book. Where is it? It's always good when you're reading if you make that connection and you want to go back and try to figure out that connection. Oh, there it is. 2,904 million light years across space versus the boy moved 2,904 tenths miles across the country. There's that similar, different connection to them being exiled to different places. Only in Claude's case, he's being banished from his country by the other cat warlords, and in Raj's case, his mom just got a new job. So, slightly different. Chapter 28. The humans have a primitive information sharing system they call the Internet, which we used to find parts I needed for the teleporter. To purchase them, the boy ogre entered a series of numbers into a touchscreen and said, "It's a good thing Dad never checks his credit card statements." I did not know what that meant. Once the human finished placing the order, I went to the front portal. "What are you doing?" he asked. "I'm going to receive the parts." How dumb was he? But they won't be here for 2 days, the boy human said. 2 days, I said. What kind of instant ordering takes 2 days? The aggravation of this primitive world. What do you need a vacuum chamber for anyway? The boy human asked. Or a photonic logic gate? The young ogre's endless questions bored me, so I took a nap. Despite the delays, we were making progress on the device. I calculated that within 4 days' time I would be able to return home. General Fang would rue the day he crossed whiskers with me. I could almost taste my revenge. Chapter 29. Monday. Even by Monday standards, this was a terrible Monday. I couldn't believe I had to leave my talking alien cat to go suffer another week of Camp Eclipse, the week that would end with survival night. Honestly, rocketing into space with Klawde sounded way less terrifying. But it's a game, Mom said at breakfast. You love games. Board games, Mom, I said. Not try not to die games. I told her that I refused to go back for another week, and then we got in the car. As the Prius silently glided into the Mount Eclipse parking lot, my heart sank. I left my cell phone and shoes in the forbidden basket and made the dreaded walk to the speaking stump. Have you ever felt like that in a similar situation? Maybe your parents made you do a camp, whether it was a survival camp or maybe a sports camp, and you didn't want to go. Your heart sank. Maybe your heart wasn't in it in the sense that you wanted to play or you had friends there to do it with. Have you ever been in a situation like that with Raj? His mom is making him persevere through this. And even though he doesn't want to go, she's making him go. We begin this week with the pack challenges, Turkey Vulture announced excitedly. They will help prepare you for surviving the apocalypse, for surviving survival night. Turkey Vulture looked straight at me. Survival night is more than a game, he went on. Paintball is a game. Dungeons and Dragons is a game. Survival night is real. For 24 hours, you will be living in a post-apocalyptic world. Then Turkey Vulture's voice got very soft. The year is 2047, and global warming has caused the seas to rise 100 feet. The world economy has been destroyed. No technology exists. The internet is dead. I gasped. What few humans remain have taken to higher ground, and only those who can adapt will survive. The question you must ask yourself is, will you be one of them? Yes, Scorpion yelled, and he and the rest of the Coldbloods cheered. So did Cedar. Why are you clapping? I whispered. This sounds terrible. It's going to be amazing, Cedar said. This is why we wanted to come to the camp, Rat. What, we? I said. My mom forced me to come. Turkey Vulture explained that today's challenge was to race to build a shelter on the top of Mount Eclipse. Okay, guys, Cedar said, turning to me and Steve. There aren't many trees at the top of the mountain, so we should collect our branches and leaves here at the base. Let's fan out and meet at the top. Now, go, go, go. As I gathered sticks on my own, Newt broke off from the Coldbloods and came over to me. I shouldn't be telling you this, but I was the new kid last year, so I know what it's like, she whispered. The main path to the summit takes forever, but there's a shortcut. She looked around to see if anyone was listening. Go across the Sword Fern Meadow and head through the pines. You'll get way ahead of everyone else. Then she sprinted off to join the other Coldbloods. Let's pause right here. 1, I didn't realize Newt was a girl. 2, I want you to think about if she's actually being kind, or do you think she's being deceiving and giving him misinformation? She is a part of the Coldbloods. Make a prediction. What do you think? Is this helpful advice or hurtful advice? The Sword Fern Meadow, that was where we foraged for snails. I actually knew where that was. I started running with my armful of sticks and leaves. I sprinted through the meadow and up to the woods. This was way faster. And then I got to the chain link fence. A sign read, "Path to summit closed for maintenance." That slimy, rotten Newt. She tricked me. Uh-oh. Chapter 30. The boy human's inability to focus was needlessly delaying the work he and his thumbs needed to do. He could not stop belly aching about the military camp he attended. It seemed that one of his enemies had tricked him into following the wrong course in a war training exercise, causing Raj's battalion to lose. "You must declaw this newt and chop off her tail," I said. "But she's a kid. She doesn't have claws or a tail." I sighed. Did this human have no imagination? "Then rip all the fur off her head," I said. "Now take the alpha photonic coil and connect it to the barytrine barrier." "What?" the boy human said. "Stick those two things together, you fool." "Darn it, now the remote is broken too," I heard the father human say upstairs. "And what happened to all the batteries?" Next came the sound of kitchen drawers slamming. I feared the father human had begun to get suspicious. "I just don't know what to do," the boy ogre said. "I let my team down, and without them I'm all alone in that crazy place. Why did Newt trick me like that?" I looked firmly at the boy ogre. "We have a saying on my planet, 'All is fair in war.'" "Oh, we have that saying too," he said, "except it's 'all is fair in love and war.'" "That's ridiculous," I muttered. "Klawde, you were the greatest leader your planet ever had. Don't you have any advice for me?" I sighed. I could see the boy ogre would be incapable of helping me unless I helped him first. Perhaps I could turn him into an adequate soldier yet. "We have another saying on my planet," I said. "He who climbs the highest tree has not the sharpest claws, but the strongest heart." Take a look at their creation so far. Do you think Klawde will be able to be teleported? The boy human nodded in awe of this ancient feline wisdom. Or not. It was impossible to tell what these humans were thinking with their expressionless faces. Chapter 31. Tuesday. "I heard you got lost yesterday," Scorpion said. "Did you have to call a cab to get to the summit?" He and the other cold-bloods burst out laughing. "It was that jerk's fault, you know it," Cedar said, pointing at Newt, who grinned proudly. "If it wasn't for that trick, we would have built a great shelter." "Yeah, but you built a brush pile," Snake said. "Good luck sleeping there on survival night." The flapping and hissing began as Turkey Vulture mounted the speaking stump. He picked right back up where he'd left off the day before. "Imagine, my young survivalists, the seas rising up the slopes of this ancient volcano. Tsunamis wiping away all that you have ever known." Turkey Vulture said. "Where will you go when the great waters rise?" "Swimming," Steve said. "No," Turkey Vulture said, rolling his eyes. "You will take to the trees." We all looked up. "The trees will be your safe haven," Turkey Vulture said. "Not only from the seas, but from the predators, such as hungry packs of rival humans." Steve raised his hand. "You mean cannibals?" Turkey Vulture nodded. "It is a little-known fact that cannibalism was widespread among many pre-modern societies." He gave us a toothy grin. "It is a practice that will surely return in the post-modern world." I was starting to wonder if Turkey Vulture liked violence and destruction. I was also beginning to wonder the same thing about Klawde. If all he really wanted was to bring peace to his home planet, why did he keep talking about making the traitors pay and launching a new reign of terror? Was it possible that Klawde was not a kind alien? Warlord cat? That maybe, just maybe, he was an evil alien warlord cat? Even if he was, though, he was still my evil alien warlord cat, and I didn't want him to leave Earth. And if he did, I wanted to go with him. But I couldn't think about Klawde right now. We were about to have our next challenge. "If you want to survive," our counselor yelled, "start climbing." Pausing right here. Have you guys ever climbed a tree? In my backyard, between my backyard and our backyard neighbor's backyard, we have a little row of trees, and some of those trees are really, really good climbing trees. Have you guys ever found a good tree with lots of branches that are easy to climb? Have you ever tried before? It's kind of a fun activity. But I would suggest asking your parents first to make sure this tree is safe to climb so that you don't fall and get hurt. But it is definitely a fun, adventurous thing to do, just like they were doing at this survival camp. Chapter 32. "Here, kitty, kitty, kitty." The father ogre was trying to lure me onto his lap with some of the dried food pellets. I approached him boldly. "Ow," he said, putting the finger I'd just bitten into his mouth. "Naughty kitty." I began to purr. It had been far too long since I injured something. Ding dong. "Now who could that be?" the father ogre said. He opened the front portal to reveal another hideous human, this one dressed in all brown. Was it some kind of military camouflage? He handed the father ogre an electric device. Sign here for delivery, sir. If someone's saying this quote, dressed in all brown, who do you think is dropping that off? Is it Amazon, UPS, or a different kind of delivery driver? I would say because of the brown that it's UPS. What is all this? The father human said, looking at the boxes while he squiggled at a stick at the device. Maybe a new toaster? He did not open any of the boxes, however, because he was going to be late for work, a concept unfamiliar to felines. As soon as he left, I tore into them. With the packages I found, diodes, capacitors, a potentiometer, and more. All the final parts I needed to complete my teleporter. I also now had the critical parts for my other project, a trans-universal communicator. Although I did not have the boy human to assist me, I completed the assembly of this all-important device with ease, pausing for only 3 brisk naps. Oh, how nice it must be to be a cat and to nap so much. Oh, how I could hardly wait to call home and hear the sweet feline language of Litterbox again. Once the communicator was functional, I dialed. The one servant who had remained loyal to the end, Lieutenant Floofyfur, when his face appeared on the screen, his surprise and joy were clear. He's saying he's surprised and joyful, but that's not what I'm seeing. And he has this evil look on his face. What do you think that means? If that is Lieutenant Floofyfur, and he's saying his surprise and joy were clear, what do you think that has to say? What kind of message are you getting from that? Chapter 33. Tuesday continued. Turkey Vulture had said whoever climbed the highest would win the challenge for their team, so the trick wasn't just picking the tallest tree, but the one that was most climbable. From what I could tell, Cedar, Scorpion, and Newt had picked the best trees, and they were already on their way up. As for me, I was still on the ground trying to choose. I didn't want to be the one who lost the challenge for our team, again, but for once there was hope. I'd always been good at climbing, even if it was never exactly in nature. Back home, my local playground had a rock climbing wall that I loved, and I'd been the best climber in my after-school program in Brooklyn Boulders. The tree I really wanted to climb looked as tall as the Empire State Building, but I couldn't reach even its lowest branches. Then I had an idea. "Hey, Steve," I hollered. Steve was the only other kid still on the ground, having twice fallen out of an oak. "Can you give me a leg up?" "No prob," Steve said, and he bent down so I could use his back as a springboard. It worked perfectly. "Thanks," I called down from the branches. "Now what about you?" "I'm about to try to..." "He's about to get swept away by the greatest tsunami in recorded history," hollered Turkey Vulture. "Climb, rat, climb!" shouted Steve, dodging our counselor, who was now pretending to be a giant tidal wave. I began to clamber up, plotting the best routes as I went. But how high would I need to go to beat the others? Scorpion, I'd get past no problem. He was already stuck, and shouting out his frustration as branch after branch snapped under his weight. Cedar seemed like she was stuck too. Newt, however, was already halfway to the sky. The little liar was scaling her pine tree like a ladder. My hands were sticky with sap, and twigs kept poking me in the eye. This was way harder than scaling a wall studded with fake plastic rocks, but I kept going. Have you ever gone rock climbing before? Or, going back to the question I asked earlier, have you ever climbed a tree before? Some trees produce sap, so when you climb them, or if you climb them, you get this sticky substance, almost like glue when you're working on a school project, on your hands. And twigs can be sticking out in random places, so if you're not careful, you could get poked in the eyes, or anywhere else on your body as you're climbing. It's way different and potentially harder, depending on the tree, than climbing with fake plastic rocks. Now, there is a rock climbing place that I know that's not too far from Batavia, Lifetime Fitness, specifically the one in Warrenville, Illinois, has a really cool rock wall that has those fake plastic rocks. Some are colorful for the kid side of it, and some are more realistic rock-like looking structures. I passed Scorpion and Cedar and was now almost as high as Newt, who had gotten caught in a tangle of vines. Maybe I could win, and that's when I looked down, which was a major mistake. I don't know about you, but I can make a connection to Raj right now. Miss Neeley is afraid of heights. Now, when I'm climbing a tree, I feel safer because with all the branches on a tree, I feel like even if I slipped, I could catch myself on a branch. When it comes to rock climbing up a wall, I feel less protected and more like I could just fall straight to the ground. I was way higher than the Mount Everest wall at Brooklyn Boulders, and there was no padded mat at the bottom. What was I thinking? I froze in terror. Turkey Vulture yelled, "Rat, stopped! The Cold Bloods win!" "No, wait!" Cedar cried from somewhere below. "He isn't done yet! Come on, Rat!" I wanted to climb higher so badly, but I couldn't move. Then the words of Klawde came ringing into my ears. "He who climbs the highest tree has not the sharpest claws, but the strongest heart." I felt myself moving again. My hands reached up and my feet found higher branches, and pretty soon I had run out of tree. I was swaying in the crown of my tree, able to see the tops of all the other ones below me. I was the highest. "He won!" Cedar shouted. "Rat won!" I did it. It felt amazing, like I was a hero. There was only one problem. How the heck was I going to get back down? I can answer that question with patience and carefulness and lots of time. Chapter 34. "Oh, great lord and master," Floofy Fur mewed. "How thrilled I am to see that you are well. Thank the 87 moons. You have no idea the indignities I have suffered," I told my loyal servant, "but they will be nothing compared to what my enemies will suffer. Tell me, Floofy, are the felines of Litterbox clamoring for my return?" "Well," Floofy Fur said slowly, "they have stopped burning you in effigy. Do they yet cower under the tyranny of General Fang? Are they desperate to return to the days of my iron-pawed rule?" Floofy Fur said. He scratched at his ear with a hind paw. "Most cats actually seem pretty happy these days. General Fang made fur care a universal right, and everyone is super excited about the unlimited free trips to the excavating parlor." Think about what this could mean in correlation to humans. General Fang made fur care a universal right. Do you think that's like Medicare or hospital care? That seems like a silly connection. "He's trying to buy them off. It's an insult. The good felines of Litterbox must see through his sneaky ways." "Well," Floofy Fur said, "he's also granted free lifetime claw trimming, and he planted 1 billion new trees to replace the one you burned in the last war. So in other words, the time is ripe for my return. To be honest, sir, I think—" "Silence!" I cried. Floofy Fur had never understood politics, and I didn't have time to explain it to him. What I needed was help testing the teleporter, which I had completed that morning after receiving the final components from the delivery ogre. As for an object to send across the universe, I had chosen what appeared to be a combat training ball I found under a glass jar in the human's main parlor. Uh-oh. A combat training ball that I found under a glass jar in the human's main parlor. I hope this ball is not the dad's fancy signed baseball. It was white with red stitching, and it had the name of some human, a Derek Jetter, scribbled on it. Uh-oh. Probably the father ogre had stolen from this Derek Jetter. Naturally, I approved of such behavior, but I would now steal it from him. I placed the ball in the teleporter under the beam of protophotonic gamma flash. With a press of the button, there was a burst of green light, and Derek Jetter's ball was gone. Moments later, I watched it enter Litterbox's atmosphere in another burst of green light. It hovered in the air for a moment, and then it dropped down on top of Floofy Fur's head. "Ow!" Floofy cried. I pinned my ears in disgust at his whimpering. "Show it to me," I commanded. "Right here," he said, lowering his head. "See the lump?" "No, you fool," I said. "The ball!" "Oh," Floofy Fur said, and held it up. The ball was in perfect condition. Success! Still, Floofy Fur insisted that we test the teleporter on something living before I risked my precious life in it. "I have something expendable humans handy," I said. "I have some expendable humans handy," I said. "No," Floofy Fur said, still rubbing behind his ear. "We need something closer to your size and genetic makeup. Are there any Earth cats you could use?" Chapter 35. Who do you think he's thinking of to use? Who could Klawde be using? Maybe those neighbor cats we encountered earlier in the book? Tuesday afternoon. Klawde, where are you? I couldn't wait to tell him how I'd won the challenge thanks to his advice. I finally found him in the garage, but I hadn't even gotten to the good part when he cut me off. Silence! Enough about your pointless life, Klawde said. Your very important problems, because I have exciting news. The teleporter works and is ready to be tested on a living being. I was about to ask what we would test it on when I heard, "Hello? Is anybody in there?" It was Lindsay, the 1 grade younger girl who lived across the street. "Oh, it's just you," Lindy said. "I thought I heard 2 voices." "That was the radio," I said, thinking quickly. "What radio?" she said. Oh, is this your kitty?" She bent down to pet Klawde. "Don't do that," I said, grabbing her arm. "He's not that kind of cat." "What kind of cat? The petting kind?" Klawde swished his tail and growled a little. "Oh, that's terrible. My cat Chad just loves to be picked up and petted and hugged. He's really smart, too." "Ha!" Klawde said. "What a weird meow he has," Lindy said. "My dad thinks he's part Siamese." "Oh, I think Chad's part Siamese too," she said. Then she looked at Klawde. "They even look a bit alike. Chad is a little fuzzier on the belly, but they're basically the same size." For some reason, Klawde started purring very loudly. "So, what are you doing tomorrow?" Lindy asked. "My mom's taking me and my friends to Wanda's water slide world, and there's still room in the minivan if you want to come." "I wish I could, but I have to go to Camp Eclipse." "Oh, you go to Camp Eclipse?" she said. "I've heard all about that camp. My brother's friend went last year. He said that on the last night of the camp, a kid died." She shrugged. "Anyway, bye." I gulped as Lindy walked away. I thought about the teleporter in the basement, ready to rocket Klawde across the universe. Maybe there was room in it for me. "This sounds like the most excellent camp," Klawde said. "I really do not know why you complain about it so much." Interesting. I love how she leaves him on a cliffhanger, a very scary one, by saying someone died in the camp that he's in, and then just leaves. Chapter 36. "Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Yummy treats for you, Flabby Tabby." These cat treats were an abomination, but they had clearly been engineered to appeal to the weak constitutions of earth felines. Flabby Tabby gobbled them up one after one, like a photobarastic particle vacuum. He followed the trail across the street into the house and down the stairs, right into the teleporter. It was really too easy. As Flabby Tabby sat there, chewing his final treat with a stupid expression on his face, I pressed the button, closed my eyes against the green flash, and zap! Flabby was gone. I reached for my communicator. "Floofy Fur, come in." Floofy Fur. My loyal minion's face appeared on screen. "Greetings, Commander. Have you received the package?" "The what?" And then in the background, I saw the green flash. "It just arrived," Floofy Fur confirmed. "Test success. Oh, Lord and Commander." Purr. Floofy turned to Flabby Tabby. "Welcome to your ancestral home of Litterbox, Earth Cat." "Meow," said Flabby. Floofy Fur cocked his head. "Space Traveler, can you understand me now?" "Meow," said Flabby. And then Flabby Tabby started cleaning a part of his body that we normally do not clean in public, and certainly not with our tongues. Floofy Fur's horrified face appeared close up in the communicator screen. "Lord High Emperor, I have terrible news. The journey to Litterbox has scrambled his brain." "No, all Earth Cats are like that," I said. "With giant ogres feeding and housing them, they had no need to think or act. They devolved." "That's very unfortunate," Floofy Fur said, holding up a paw to shield his eyes from the spectacle. "Run some tests on him," I said. "Make sure the teleporter did not do any additional damage to this weak brain." Floofy Fur saluted and signed off. I had just a few final preparations before I could leave this godforsaken planet. I could smell victory. I had not yet told Floofy, but I was expecting to have a secret weapon by my side. A human weapon. Chapter 37. Wednesday. "Tomorrow is the night you've all been waiting for," Turkey Vulture said, as he handed us each a piece of bark. On it was a list of what we needed for survival night. Water bottle, flashlight, pocket knife, courage, bandages. Today shall be the day of rest and reflection, our counselor said with unusual calmness, of strolling along the forest paths, of gathering and foraging. That didn't sound so bad. But Turkey Vulture wasn't done. Because beginning tomorrow, the last glaciers have melted. The waters have risen 300 feet. In the entire world, there are now only islands of land. Here he stopped for a dramatic pause. Like this volcano. Everyone gasped. I just love his story, Cedar whispered to me. But it's not just a story. Not to him, I said. My neighbor told me a kid died last year. What? Really? Steve said. That can't be true, Cedar said. How can you be so sure, I said. We still don't even know what the game is. I'll tell you babies what it is, Scorpion said. It's hide or get eaten times 1,000,000. And when it's done, Newt added, you're gonna wish you'd never been born. Snake just stared at us and dragged his finger slowly across his neck. Later, we foraged and fixed up our shelter. Cedar tried to cheer Steve and me up. Remember, it's just like Turkey Vulture said. Nature is our friend. What he'd actually said was that nature was an all-powerful and couldn't care less if humans went extinct. But I didn't bother to correct her. In the car ride back, I didn't even talk to my mother. I felt like I was going to throw up. A kid died last year, Lindy had said. And then I saw her, Lindy. Mom turned down our street, and there she was, putting up a poster on the telephone pole in front of our house. When her family got home from the waterslide park, Lindy told me the cat was gone. Somehow a window had been left open. Chad will never survive outside, she said, starting to cry. He's never been outside. And he's neutered. I know how he feels, I said. About not surviving outside, I mean. And I did mean it. I really didn't think I would. Not for a whole night, and definitely not with the cold bloods out to get me. Reward. Lost cat. Answers to the name of Chad. Please help. And then a phone number. I tried to talk to Claude about it, but all he cared about was the teleporter. It worked, Claude purred, rubbing against it. I sent a live animal across the universe. What animal? I said. Wait a minute. Lindy's cat is missing. You didn't. What kind of feline do you think I am? Claude said, offended. It was a mouse. I looked at the teleporter that I helped build. Is it powerful enough to send something bigger than a cat across the universe, I said? Chapter 38. By the time the boy human returned from battle camp, I had received excellent news. The flabby tabby was completely healthy, morbid obesity aside. My departure was now at hand. Even more excellent news came from the boy ogre himself. He was on the claw's edge of coming with me. All he needed was a bit more encouragement. And we could leave tomorrow, he asked. Absolutely, I said. And you would send me back home whenever I wanted? Of course. As the young human went off to his sleeping chamber, my tail swished in pleasure. My evil scheme was working perfectly. In the morning, the boy ogre came to me in the underground bunker he referred to as the basement. Okay, he said, I want to go with you. What joy! This giant would render me invincible. I could taste final victory. I had called Floofy Fur and tell him the excellent news. But before I could do anything, there was that infernal sound from the front portal. Ding dong! Raj! The father human called. It's for you! Before we continue reading, what's for him? Who's at the front door portal? And what do you think's going to happen? The boy has now committed to going with Claude through this transporter back to Claude's litterbox universe. What do you think's going to happen? Make a prediction. Chapter 39. Thursday morning. I barely slept all night. This was the biggest decision of my life. By morning, I decided that the chance to travel to another planet, a planet of cats, was just too awesome to miss. Especially since it meant I'd be missing survival night. But just as I told Claude I would go with him, the doorbell rang. Who could it be at 7 a.m.? I went to the front door and found Cedar and Steve on the porch. This guy showed up at my house an hour ago, Cedar said, pointing to Steve. I couldn't sleep, Steve said. Every time I closed my eyes, I thought about the rising seas and the cannibals. I kept telling him all the disaster stuff is just a part of the game, and he won't believe me, Cedar said. My dad appeared behind me with a cup of coffee. It's so nice you've made friends, son. Friends, I wanted to say. They're just two kids I've been doomed to die with. Except that I had found a way not to die. And maybe I could save them too. Can you guys keep a secret, I whispered. A big secret? They both nodded yes. Come on, I said, and led them down to the basement. Hey, what's that awful noise? Cedar said. It sounds like a baboon getting his nose hairs ripped out. It was Klawde, of course. He was in his covered litter box using his communicator to tell his most trusted lieutenant I was joining him. That's my cat, I said. He's the secret. What do you mean? Cedar asked. My cat, I said, is an alien. Huh? Steve said. Cedar looked really confused. Raj, are you feeling okay? Klawde stepped out of the litter box and saw everyone staring at him. His tail swished. And not only is he an alien, I went on, he's a warlord. He conquered his entire planet, and I'm going there to help him reunite the cats of his planet, Litterbox. Warlord, Cedar said. Litterbox, Steve said. No, it's not pronounced that way. Oh, never mind. We're leaving today. Cedar touched my arm. Rat, you're not making sense. Are you okay? We built a teleporter. I pointed to the tangle of metal and wire in the corner. You can both come and help us. Then you won't have to go to survival night. Cedar and Steve looked back and forth between me and the teleporter. Then Steve burst out laughing. I don't know what's funnier, he said, the thought of you riding through space in that pile of scrap metal or the idea that your cat is an alien. But I could prove it. Go ahead, Klawde, I said. Speak. Tell them who you really are. Klawde looked at me and then at Cedar and Steve. He blinked and said one word. Meow. Chapter 40. After the two other child humans left, shaking their heads, my human turned to me. Why did you do that? He demanded. Now they think I'm crazy. I thought you wanted humans to come help you reconquer your planet. You could have had 2 more. Raj, I said, I have heard what has gone on in this room. I see that you are no longer alone in this place. Well, I guess they're kind of my friends. They're more important than friends, I said, scolding him. They are your comrades in arms, your partners in battle, and that is a bond even stronger than littermates. He did not look convinced. You must not shrink from tonight's war. Reach down beneath your fur or whatever is covering your hideous body and bring out the inner feline, the battle cat, I cried, as I said to my troops before the war of Scratch-Shink Post. It is best to die in 10,000 deaths than turn tail and run. An army need not be stronger, only smarter and crueler. The human was clearly moved by my words. But what about going to Litterbox? He said. It is with a heavy heart that I have to tell you this, Raj Banerjee, but I cannot take you across the universe, I said. I see now that your fight is here, on Earth. You are needed on this planet for survival night and beyond. The human was confused and disappointed, and it seemed that his eyes might leak again. He made me promise that I wouldn't leave before he returned, if he returned. I said that I would wait for him and wished him luck. He paused at the door. Thanks, he said. It makes me happy to know that you really care about me. From the window, I watched as he climbed into the family go-kart, which would transport him to the battle's front lines. I wondered if he would survive. It seemed unlikely. I was just relieved that he had believed all the nonsense I had told him. I needed him out of my fur so I could use the teleporter, alone. There had been a sudden, unavoidable change of plans. While the boy human was talking to the other child humans, I called Floofy Fur to tell him the good news. But Floofy had informed me that the humans were too big to use the teleporter. If you try, Floofy Fur said, the human will explode and his molecules will be scattered across the brilliant light years of space, like so many subatomic specks of dust and gore. So you're saying it's worth a shot? No, Floofy said. Not unless you want a very messy teleporter. Chapter 41. Thursday. Up on the speaking stump, Turkey Vulture was hissing and flapping with more energy than ever. Today is the day, he cried. Here at the top of Mount Eclipse, the last threads of civil society have broken down. All remaining humans have divided into clans and retreated into the woods, where they can fight each other over what precious few resources remain. Can I hold your hand? Steve whispered to me. Turkey Vulture cupped his hands at the sides of his head. When you put on your deer ears, you can hear it. Humanity's final, gasping breaths. I looked over at Cedar, and even she looked a little nervous. And then Turkey Vulture explained the rules of the game. You are truly in nature now. Together with your packs, you will live off of what you have foraged and spend the night in your shelter. But that is not all, he said with a grin. You will also be hunting each other. Steve gasped, or maybe that was me. You will sneak through the dark woods on your forest feet, Turkey Vulture said, hopping off the speaking stump and tiptoeing around us. Then you will lie and wait for your rival humans. When one appears, you attack. Turkey Vulture lunged at me, and before I knew it, he had ripped my name tag from around my neck. The snatching of the name tag means you have not survived survival night. You are taken. That didn't sound good. I raised my hand. What do you mean, taken? I asked. Taken where? Turkey Vulture smiled. You'll find out when it happens, won't you? He said, and handed my name tag back to me. I could see he was thinking that I'd be one of the first to go. The final surviving player delivers victory to her entire pack. Turkey Vulture locked eyes with each of us in turn. His were wild. Now, let survival night begin. We all shot off in different directions up the sides of the volcano. I raced behind Cedar on the trail to our shelter with Steve puffing heavily behind us. Once we were safely inside, we hunkered down and plotted our strategy. I think we should just stay here, I said. We've got all the food and water we've collected yesterday. Are you kidding, Cedar said. The cold bloods will come for us. I'm not going to sit around and wait for them to come steal our tags. She passed out a handful of berries. Let's have a snack and move out. And then what, I said. We do what Turkey Vulture told us to do, she said. We move silently through the woods and pounce. Let's stick together, okay, I said. I still didn't know my way around. After we'd finished our berries, we'd snuck out of the shelter and made a run for the nearest line of trees. We hadn't gotten 10 feet before we felt rocks whizzing by our heads. Uh-oh. The cold bloods. Hey, you can't use rocks, Cedar yelled at them. That's against the rules. Rules? Newt scoffed. There's no such thing as rules on survival night. Run, little babies, Scorpion called. Run as fast as you can because we're coming to get you. And we did. Chapter 42. I was licking the last of the yellow rectangles when the balding ogre stepped into the cooking room. How did you get that out, little guy, he said, snatching my treat from the floor. I whacked him, but his hand was so banged from the many wounds I had already inflicted upon him that he hardly noticed. Oh, don't worry, Kitty, he said. I bought a very special treat for you. I did not trust this one bit, so I retreated to a safe position under the firebox. Here you go, he said, throwing something at me. It appeared to be a garnish doll of some sort. The likeliness was terrible, but I believe it was meant to be a mouse. What did he think I was? A kitten? One of these idiot earth cats? What was that intoxicating smell? It was coming from the purple mouse. I inched closer, and the smell grew stronger. It seemed to speak to me. Come pounce, come bite, come shred me into pieces with your deadly back claws. It was as if my mind was not my own. Oh, the smell of this mouse doll. This beautiful purple mouse doll. What was inside of it? Happiness itself? I ripped it to bits and rolled around in its stuffing. This mouse was the best thing on this entire miserable planet. What do you think is inside that little mouse toy that's making him act this way? My guess is catnip. Chapter 43. Thursday afternoon. Are you guys okay? Cedar asked when we finally stopped running. The cold bloods had been chasing us for what seemed like forever through the woods, but we lost them in the stinging nettles field. Cedar knew the safe path across, so we were able to make a clean getaway while Scorpion and the others got stuck there, howling in pain. We regrouped at the base of the chain-link fence that blocked the path to the summit. They wouldn't ever think we'd go to a dead end on purpose. At least, I hope they wouldn't. I'm hungry, Steve said. I'm exhausted, I said. I think we should stay here. Let the rest of the kids steal each other's tags. Come on, guys. Do you really want to give up so easily? Cedar said. Steve and I both shrugged. I was okay with it. Then out of the blue, Cedar started to cry. What's wrong? I asked. Cedar was the brave one. The nature ninja. If she fell apart, what did that mean for the rest of us? I don't want to lose, she said. I'm sick of Scorpion and his stupid sidekicks. They're so mean. Forget the cold bloods, I said. After tomorrow, we'll never have to see them again. But we're all going to the same school, she said. There's only one middle school in this town. My heart sank. The thought had never occurred to me. In Brooklyn, no one went to the same middle school. There were hundreds of them. I don't want them calling us forest failures in the hallway, Cedar said, kicking at a clump of moss. I want to win the game. I remembered what Klawde had said to me this morning. An army need not be stronger, only smarter and crueler. I wasn't interested in cruelty, but the smart part I hoped we could manage. We aren't as big or as mean as the cold bloods, I said, but we can hit them where it hurts. How? Cedar asked. We steal their snacks. Steve patted his belly. I definitely like the sound of that. We made our plan. While the Cold Bloods were chasing the other teams, trying to steal their tags, we'd raid their shelter. They'd never expect it. The only problem was that when we got to the Cold Blood shelter, we discovered that it was empty, abandoned. What do we do now? Steve moaned. They've obviously built a new secret lair, and we need to find it, Cedar said. Steve, you go west. Raj and I will head east along the ridge. It was late afternoon now, but between the cloudy skies and the dark forest, it seemed like nighttime. We were creeping down a deer trail when we heard the snap of a twig. Cedar immediately whirled around and ripped the tag from a kid who had been trying to ambush us. Nice try, Otter, she said. I'm sure the rest of Swamp Team will miss you. Otter didn't even have time to look disappointed before Turkey Vulture appeared out of nowhere and dragged him away, whimpering. Where is he taking him? I whispered. I don't know, Cedar said, and I don't want to find out. Come on, let's keep moving. I flinched at every forest sound I heard. I kept telling myself it was only a game, but it really didn't feel like one. Chapter 44. I was no longer on vile Earth. I was rocketing through space, flying past exploding nebulas. I watched stars being born and entire new galaxies bursting into being, all of them ready to bow down before me. I was not just the ruler of one planet, I ruled the entire universe. Ha ha ha. Then I woke up from my nap. I was still in the cooking room. The grinning father human stood amid the torn shreds of the purple mouse. Was that good, boy? The father human said. Do you want another? Did I? Of course I did. I said, meow? Oh no. What had become of me? I had said it, the idiot earth cat word. These mouth dolls, this was how the humans controlled felines. This was how they made earth cats stupid. The fiends. Another mouse doll landed at my feet, this one yellow and blue. Oh, the smell. The smell. But I would not succumb to it. My will was titanium steel. I stood up, scratched the father human on his hideous leg, and hurried downstairs. It was time to leave this planet of nightmares. Do you think he's going to leave without saying bye to the boy human? Chapter 45. Thursday night. Are we there yet? I whispered. We've been circling the top of Mount Eclipse for ages, trying and failing to find the Cold Blood's new shelter. These guys are smarter than I thought, Cedar said. It was raining now, and somewhere in the distance, coyotes had begun to howl. My plan was a total failure. Cedar wiped raindrops from her face. It's okay, Rat. We're going to make it. It's getting dark. How are we going to find the shelter? How are we going to find Steve? Hush, she said. But she held a finger to her lips, and that's when I heard it. A crack of a branch. Something was creeping in our direction. I don't want to get taken. I don't want to get taken. I don't want to get taken. My heart banged in my chest like it would explode right out of me. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like that? Being so nervous or so scared that you feel your heart banging in your chest, almost like it would explode right out of your body? The cracking got louder, and then there was a huge crash as something enormous came rushing towards us in the darkness. I screamed. Then Cedar shouted, Steve! He was holding a woven basket full of leaves and food. Wild asparagus and salmon berries, Steve said, the Cold Blood snacks. Steve, you're a genius, Cedar said as we stuffed berries into our mouths. Nobody's ever told me that before, Steve said, grinning. Then we heard the sound of laughter, cruel laughter. From somewhere came a voice. Did you really think we'd leave our shelter unguarded? I could see him, but I couldn't see him, but I knew it was Scorpion. You think we just let you waltz in and eat our snacks, he crackled. Fat chance, little babies. We heard Newt and Snake snickering. The sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Where were they? Were we surrounded? We crouched down behind a clump of ferns. We already wiped out the fire team, Snake called, and we finished off the swamp team, Newt added. Are you three ready to be taken? Scorpion yelled. Cedar's eyes got fierce. They're closing in on us. She whispered. We've got to scatter, and then it's every man for himself. Only one of us needs to survive, remember? She reached down in the mud to the mud of the path and spread it across her cheeks. Camouflage, she said. And then, like a shadow, she vanished. I guess it's just you and me, Rat, Steve said. That seems like a bet All at once the forest erupted. 3 shapes came hurtling at us. I hit the forest floor just as Newt went sailing over my head and crashed into a blackberry bush, a very thorny blackberry bush. Ow, 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 she yelped. That must have hurt. Snake and Steve grappled like a couple of professional wrestlers, but with a quick swipe of his right hand, Steve got his opponent's badge. Victory, Steve yelled, holding Snake's tag high. It's a cool image the illustrator has for us. Then Scorpion appeared out of nowhere and snatched Steve's badge. Any second now, Turkey Vulture would appear and drag my packmate away. Ha! Scorpion yelled. You're next, rat. Prepare to be taken. He came at me, but I dived forward through the bush. When I came out on the other side, the wet ground gave way, and I started sliding, headfirst down the slope of Mount Eclipse. Chapter 46. In the corner of the ogre's underground bunker, my teleporter awaited its ultimate mission, returning me to Litterbox. I inspected it one last time. Everything was in order. The green light on the fusion reactor blinked steadily. It was time to go. But then, hiss! I heard footsteps, and the long-furred ogre entered the bunker holding a box in her paws. I glared at her. She glared back. Someone needs to deal with these boxes if we're going to live in this place, the mother human said. Up and down the stairs she kept coming and going, bringing down the boxes. She began to mark on them in that ugly scribble the humans use to record their primitive language. The task was endless, and I needed to leave. I would have to treat her as I did the father ogre. I walked up to her, somewhat less hideous leg. Just as I was about to scratch her bloody, she turned to me. If you try it, I'll skin you alive and turn you into a fur cat. Finally, a human I could respect. I stood down. I had to wait until she went back upstairs and stayed there. It took 2 nap times, but at last she seemed to be gone for good. The hour was finally at hand. Chapter 47, Thursday night. I don't know how long I rolled down the slope or how long it took for my head to stop spinning once I reached the bottom. I sat up. I was scratched all over, but otherwise fine, except I had no idea where I was. I put on my deer ears. I couldn't hear anything. What was I going to do now? I stayed there for a while thinking I was safe. I should have known better. It's just you and us, Rat. We're the only ones left. It was Newt calling from somewhere up the hill. Who would have thought you'd survived this long? That girl packmate of yours put up a good fight, but she's with the others, Scorpion shouted. Now it's your turn, Rodent. Their voices were getting louder. They were closing in on me. Without knowing which direction I was heading, I began to run. Why couldn't I be rocketing across the universe with Klawde? This was the scariest night of my life. Oh, little rat, came Scorpion's voice. We're right behind you. I ran faster, where the path split. I went left, and pretty soon the trail widened, and then I wasn't in the forest anymore. I was in a clearing. Down below, I saw a dim yellow light. It was coming from the porch of the welcome cabin. Maybe I was saved after all. With a giant burst of speed, I raced toward it. Scorpion's taunts began to fade behind me. At the door, I paused. This was not only the welcome cabin, it was the home of the forbidden basket. I could see my cell phone in it, right atop, seemed to be calling. I could see my cell phone in it, right on top. It seemed to be calling to me. I pushed open the window and climbed carefully inside. I grabbed my phone. It felt so good in my hands, and I pressed Dad. Raj, he said. Hey, Dad, I said. Look, it's against the rules for me to call, but I really want to say goodnight to Klawde. So, can you find him? Put the phone on speaker and lay it down in front of him. And leave? Okay, he said. Dad clearly thought I was nuts, but he was going to do it anyway, which is why I didn't press Mom. I heard the sound of him going down the stairs and placing his phone on the ground, and then the basement door shutting as he left. What is it? Said Klawde. He sounded impatient. I was about to explain the whole situation, but the door of the welcome cabin started to open. I talked as fast as I could. If you really are a great feline warrior, you need to come help me, I said. Now! Then I hit the flashlight icon on my phone, and the beam lit up the intruder, creeping toward me. Turkey Vulture. I was finally entering the teleporter when the father human returned. Hiss! He sent his primitive communicator down in front of me and retreated. It was the boy ogre calling. The battle had gone badly. Little surprise. I certainly would not miss this human's complaining while I was shaving the tails of my enemies. I was about to hang up on him when something interesting happened. There was shouting. I heard the word help many times, and the sound of a scuffle, the clash of combat. Then the communicator went dead. Had my human fallen in battle? Had he been captured by his enemies? Now this interested me. Also, the boy human had begged me to mount a rescue operation, and let it never be said that the Lord High Emperor of all cats shrinks from a challenge. I would go save him. There was only one way to get to him quickly, the family go-kart. Thankfully, this vehicle operated on a push-button technology. Why couldn't the humans do this with everything? With a press of my paw, I started the engine. With another, I put it into drive mode and set the speed control. The brake was out of reach of my hind paws, but who needed brakes? What I needed was speed. And for finding the boy human, that would be no problem, because I had chipped him in his sleep. The tracker in my communicator showed me exactly where he was. Even the sluggish pace of, what is it now, 107 miles per hour, I began to purr as I rolled down the open road. I was going off to battle again. I felt alive. Whoa, I don't know if you know or monitor how fast your parents drive you to places, but 107 miles per hour is not your neighborhood miles per hour speed limit. Not even highway. Chapter 49. Thursday night. Our counselor was totally, terrifyingly transformed. His face and beard were covered in moss. His feet were muddy and bare. In his dirty hand, he carried a fat stick. Craziest of all, he now seemed to be wearing a bush. He was a forest nightmare come to life. Rat! Turkey Vulture cried. I knew the stench of civilization was strong on you, but I never expected this. I was frozen in fear. My phone fell to the floor, but the cold bloods were throwing rocks, and Turkey Vulture took another step toward me. I don't care about rocks. Rocks are a part of nature, but what you have used is unnatural, he yelled. Technology. How dare you ruin this beautiful game with such an outrage? He shook his stick at me. Was he going to hit me with it? I certainly wasn't going to hang around to find out. I hopped up onto the desk, dived back out the window, and ran. The rain had finally stopped, but the paths were all mud soup, and I kept slipping and falling. Up the slope of the volcano we raced, with Turkey Vulture a stone's throw behind me and closing in. How could he run so fast with all those branches and leaves on him? There was only one direction to escape, up. Taking a running start, I scrambled up the trunk of a giant oak. I was climbing higher and higher when I heard Newt's high-pitched shriek. He's up there, Newt yelled. Trapped like a rat he is. She was right. I was trapped. Even so, I climbed higher. I wasn't going to make it easy for them to take me. As I neared the tree's upper branches, I saw a flash of white light in the distance. Was it lightning? Or, please, a rescue helicopter? Stand back, Turkey Vulture shouted. He had reached the tree, and now he started climbing. Scorpion's cruel laughter seemed to echo all around me. Rats about to get exterminated, he yelled. I gritted my teeth and kept going. I hoped the branches would hold me. Suddenly, I saw movement in another tree, high up near where I was. I squinted through the darkness. Something was making its way toward me, hopping from branch to branch and making a howling sound. Did they have monkeys in Oregon? Could wolves climb trees? In another moment, it was in my tree, right above my head. I knew it was the end. I was concerned. I was cornered. Turkey Vulture below me, and some kind of horrible tree-hopping forest beast above me. I've almost got you, Rat, Turkey Vulture called. Then the creature from above came hurtling down. I screamed and ducked, and it went flying past me, hissing as it went. Klawde! I could kind of tell from this picture over here that it was Klawde coming to his rescue. Now from his point of view. Chapter 50. I had never seen anything like it. My human was being pursued by a tree monster. Up a tree by a monster. It appeared to be half ogre, half plant, and it obviously planned to devour my human, or worse. What a shame I couldn't bring this one through the teleporter. But there was no time if I lose... But there was no time to lose if I wanted to save my human. I quickly scaled the nearest tree and leaped branch to branch until I was directly above him and the squawking plant beast. I paused, took aim, and launched myself into the air. Oh, the joy gliding through the sky, the feel of the wind ruffling my fur, the glory of battle swelling my ferocious heart. My aim was true, and I made a direct hit on the plant monster's head. My claw made quick work of his face. Where was I? My claws made quick work of his face. But these earthlings injure easily. Ah! The monster screamed and fell backward out of the tree. Luckily for the plant ogre, its leafy branches cushioned the impact of its fall, but they wouldn't protect it from the fury of my claws. I jumped down and attacked at ground level. I showed the monster no mercy, but its strength was that of 10,000 cats. It grasped me by the neck and tore me off itself. Then it dangled me from its hideous leafy paw. I yowled in fury and slashed at the beast, but my claws meant nothing but air. If this was to be my end, at least I had fought as no cat had ever fought before. A cat? The creature yelled. Behold, campers, this vile and destructive creature, this killer of songbirds, this murderer of chipmunks, this perfidious predator. I know it sounds complimentary, but I took offense at the creature's tone. The plant monster stared me right in the eyes. The rampage of you and your kind has gone on for far too long, I cried. There will be no cats in this apocalypse except for dinner. Now, who's hungry? Hey, you can't do that, my human yelled down from above. That's my cat. I should have suspected. Well, he's not your cat anymore, the plant monster yelled. He shook me from head to tail. Finders keepers, finders eaters. And that's when I spoke to him in his own barbaric tongue. Do your worst, plant human, I cried. The monster's hideous mouth fell open. Chapter 51. Thursday night. I couldn't believe it. Klawde had come to save me. How did he know where to find me? From high above I watched as he attacked Turkey Vulture, but then the counselor managed to grab him and hold Klawde out of striking distance, and now he was threatening to eat him. I had swallowed my fear, and it was then that I found my inner battle cat. You can do whatever you want to me, you crazy lunatic, I cried, but not my cat. I flung myself out of the tree. I had no plan other than to land on Turkey Vulture, which I did. It hurt, both of us. Turkey Vulture lost his grip on Klawde, who jumped out of the way. Run, Klawde, I called. Run, run! Klawde hesitated. I could tell he didn't want to leave me. Go, I cried, and he did. I turned to the Cold-Bloods, expecting a fight, but they weren't paying any attention to me. Instead, they turned to Turkey Vulture, who was lying on the ground in a daze. Were you being serious about eating Raj's cat? Scorpion asked, because that's messed up. Newt nodded. Yeah, it's totally psycho. You heard it talk, didn't you? Turkey Vulture cried. That animal spoke to me. You mean, Scorpion said, when it meowed? Turkey Vulture's eyes were wild. No, it spoke in English. Don't you understand? Cats are evolving. Scorpion looked at Newt, then looked at me. Game over, you guys. Turkey Vulture's lost the plot. Let's go to the tent. They took off their name tags and dumped them on the ground. Tent, I said? What's tent? The tent where everyone else is, Scorpion said. What did you think happened when someone got taken? I really didn't want to say. Off in the distance, I saw a flash of white light, then again. Then came the red glow of taillights and a song fading into the night. We're not gonna take it. No, we're not gonna take it. Chapter 52. Oh, what a joy it was to watch my human attack his enemy. He sailed through the air like a true feline commando, although I did not like his prospects against the planet ogre. His brave actions had given me the chance to retreat. Sometimes a great leader must know when to leave his troops behind. As the saying goes, there are always more soldiers, but there is only one warlord. I would miss the young ogre after all. I thought as I entered the motorized go-kart. Back to the controls, I had finally discovered the button for flight mode. Except I did not. Instead of levitating, the car filled, except I did not. Instead of levitating, the car filled with the dreadful noise humans call music. We're not gonna take it anymore. It was sort of catchy. Chapter 53. There they were, the swamp team, the fire team, Snake, Steve, and Cedar eating hot dogs and s'mores inside a big cozy tent. Cedar came running up to me. Rat, you're the only one with a name tag. You won. A banjeree always finishes what she starts, I said. What she starts? Steve asked. I said. What he starts. Rat didn't win, Scorpion said. We just stopped playing. So what, Cedar said. If you guys quit, we win. Right, Turkey Vulture? But Turkey Vulture didn't seem to hear. He was still babbling about talking cats and how they were going to take over the world. He whispered, the apocalypse is nearer than we think. We stayed up almost the whole night, and believe it or not, I was actually sad when the time came to leave. As we were walking through Camp Eclipse Arc, Steve leaned into me. So what did you say about your cat? He whispered. That was all true? Let's just say what happens at Camp Apocalypse stays at Camp Apocalypse, I said. Except for us being friends, Cedar said, right? I couldn't help smiling. Yeah, except that. You guys are losers, Scorpion said, passing by us. But we didn't care. We got to the parking lot where our parents were waiting. You guys have to start calling me Wolf now, Steve said. What's your real name? Raj, I said. Raj? Your name is Raj? Steve said. Real creative. Forest name, Rat. How about you? I said, turning to Cedar. What's your real name? Wouldn't you like to know? Cedar said, and then darted into her parents' car. So you made it through Nature Camp, Mom said, when I got into the Prius. Now, that wasn't so bad, was it? I shrugged. No, I guess not. I feel pretty good about things. But as we turned down our street, I saw the telephone poles with the lost cat posters on them and pictured Chad looking back at me, and I didn't feel so good anymore. Because pretty soon my cat would be gone too. Oh, we are finalizing our book. I'm going to pause really quickly here. I want you to think about what's going to happen next. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Chapter 54. I took a nap, lapped up with some white liquid, and read the Wall Street Journal on the toilet one last time. I was ready to leave again, when the most unexpected thing of all happened. I heard the voice of my boy human. How in the 87 moons had he survived? Did he manage to murder all 3 of his enemies alone? I was so proud. I took my paw off the teleport button. Even an evil warlord must say goodbye to a soldier who fought so valiantly. The boy human found me in the basement. He was dirty and scratched, like a true warrior. I wish you didn't have to go, he said, but I understand your fight is back home. I'm so sorry you will not be coming to Litterbox to share my glorious victory, I said. But you will do well here on Earth. Perhaps one day you will even rule it. You will be the king earthling warlord human. The kind earthling warlord human. The boy Lord Ogre bared his teeth at me with his lip curled up and the hideous grimace the humans call a smile. Why did they do that? As for me, I paid the boy human the ultimate sign of respect, the twinning curl. I rubbed against him, allowing my tail to wind briefly and gently around his shin. And with that, I entered the teleporter, pressed the button, and said goodbye to this dismal planet known as Earth. Good riddance. Chapter 55. Friday afternoon. I stayed down in the basement until I heard my parents get home from Mom's tennis match. Here, kitty, 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 I heard Dad calling. He's not here, I thought sadly. He'll never be here again. "Have you seen Klawde?" Dad asked when I came upstairs. "Is something wrong?" Mom asked when she saw my face. I told them the lie I had prepared, that while they were gone, the family who had lived in the house before us came along looking for their lost cat, Klawde. "Some cats attach to places more than people, so that's why he came back here after they moved," I said. "At least that's what they told me." "Oh, Raj," Mom said and gave me a hug. "I sure did love that little guy," Dad said, and wiped a tear from his eye with one of his bandaged fingers. "Yeah, me too." I went to my room to go to bed, pulled the covers up to my chin, and fell asleep. It was the green flash that woke me. I sat up immediately. "That was not lightning," I heard my mom saying. "It's sunny outside. We need to have an electrician look at the wiring in this old house." I shot out of bed and raced down the stairs, and that's when I heard it, a faint meow. It was coming from the basement. I ran down 3 steps at a time. Meow! The teleporter shook, the door opened, and out stepped... I like how the author did this little page. It's very suspenseful. Now, who says meow? Is it Klawde or Chad? I sank down to the floor. Chad waddled toward me, meowing loudly. There was a note attached to his collar. I kind of predicted this would happen. An evil alien warlord cat must always finish what she starts. Epilogue. Now that this book is over, did it end the way you had predicted it would when I asked you to predict what would happen next? Klawde almost changed throughout this book. How do you think he changed? Ways that I'm thinking he changed is that he came off quite evil in the beginning, but now that this book is over and he returned Chad, wouldn't you say that that was a kind thing to do? I almost felt sad as Raj saw those missing cat posters, thinking that Chad may never return to his owners. But given this ending, I would say that his character has changed for the better in positive ways. Epilogue. I'm gonna turn the pages, and if you'd like to continue reading this ending, you can pause it and read. And the About the Author's page. There is our Klawde book, Evil Alien Warlord Cat, by Johnny Marciano and Emily Chenoweth. Go ahead and do some reflection on this book, whether it is in preparation for Battle of the Books or just in general. How did you like this story? What could you connect with, or who could you connect with in this book? I really like this book because although he looks like a very scary alien cat here, I do love cats and can make a lot of connections to the cat things that were happening in this story. And I did really enjoy this book. I think I would give it a 5 out of 5 stars. One of the aspects of this book that I really liked was the back and forth between Raj and our evil alien warlord cat, who, although that's part of the title, I think he became a kind alien warlord cat. Thank you very much for reading this book with me. I'm very proud of you for getting it done. And good luck if you're competing in the Battle of the Books competitions. Thank you for reading. Miss Neeley, out.